Hello, crisis actors. It's Mary. So sorry that we were a little bit late getting started today. We had a bit of a pickle that we got into before the show. But I want to remind you once again that Brett is currently out of town. He's going to be back tomorrow on Thursday, and we're going to be doing another episode where we listen to your voicemails. So if you are not a member of the Discord already, you should go join and send us a voice message and we'll respond to it, or at least try tomorrow. Today I have Kellen once again joining across from me.
Hello.
Hi. You're putting out fires all over the place today.
This week has been a crazy week, but it's like Friday for me because it's my last day with you all. So, you know, I was crying all night long. It feels so sad
that you're going to leave us. Like, I also feel like I'm mourning my one-woman dictatorship over this show right now.
I'll be in a better place.
Like, my reign is almost over. It's almost coming to a close. I also have Aidan joining me once again on the show.
Hey guys, Hi. I'm here. It's probably my fault for the tech difficulties. I also ruined Shane Cashman's show.
Yeah, I think it's actually
me just being in the room is a problem. I get it.
Well, tell them about your channel if they haven't heard about it already.
Sure. If you haven't heard of me, I am the lead researcher and host of a channel called The Lore Lodge right here on YouTube, where we do videos about conspiracy theories, missing persons cases, and very often, actually, now that I think about it, government incompetence.
Okay. Love that.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police couldn't solve a case if they wanted to.
Well, guys, it's not just Aidan today. We're still waiting on Serge to waltz into the studio at some point. There's his chair waiting for him, his throne. It's right there.
Great point. Great point, Serge.
Yeah, we love to hear from Serge.
I did see something in chat. I did do a 20. I did not do a 23andMe. I did do a my my heritage
ancestry. Or?
It was one of those ancestry tests, and it told me I was. So just to preface this, my grandmother's name is was Braun.
Okay. Very
German, right? Told me I wasn't German at all, but I was 8% Middle Eastern.
Oh.
And 4% Ashkenazi Jewish.
8% Middle Eastern.
Yeah, and I'm like,
kind of a lot.
I'm looking at my skin and I'm like, we don't know.
I thought you said you were Italian.
I've traced my entire ancestry back as far as I can. There's no Middle Eastern in there. I just think they mixed up my test with somebody else.
You know what? Did you see this whole controversy about 23andMe's board resigning? Mm-hmm. Like all of the board members of 23andMe dropped off at once. And it was either because they were mishandling people's data, which we could have seen from a mile away, obviously.
I only did this because I was paid to.
Or it was because the company had not been profitable for a significant period of time, and they just wanted out before it was too late. But
have you heard Pete Davidson's joke about 23andMe?
No. What's the joke?
So he ordered...
I doubt you can deliver it as well as Pete Davidson, but
he ordered... I'll tell you the story. He ordered test kits, right? So the 23andMe test kits. He's like, no way this works. I'm going to test to see how well this works. So he sticks the test in place you're not supposed to stick the test. Sends it in. They send him a new one back. Sorry, there's problems with your results. Can you please do it again? He's like, huh. So he sticks it in the same place.
I'm sorry. Why would you assume that...
So he sends it off again. He then gets a letter, or he actually gets a phone call and a letter from like an exec there. And there's like, sir, if you don't stop shoving this thing up where we know you're shoving it, we're going to have to contact the authorities. Like this is like a federal crime. You can't mail.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I did just briefly look into this and found apparently the former CEO or current CEO, maybe, I don't know. I haven't gotten very far on this. Anyway, her name's Ann Wojcicki. She is Susan Wojcicki's sister.
Susan Wojcicki, R.I.P., who also died 9 months after her son died. Very weird timing for all of this to be happening. Don't you agree?
It's a little weird.
But it's not enough for me to sit here and say that there's a conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, their dad seems like he was a pretty bright guy, former chair of the physics department at Stanford.
Anyway, I don't know how we got into that, but if you are new here, and you might be because we've had some boosts in subscribers lately, I want to explain a few things. We are going to be reading all of your super chats today. Every $100 of super chats will trigger a crisis party, which if you haven't seen it in the past 2 episodes, you will soon enough. And we will be reading any super chat $20 and over right there as soon as it's sent, including this one from Mac N. Hey guys, when I left a super chat a while back, I mentioned my fantasy novel I was working on, Sealbreaker: The Rise of the First Flame. It is story and character oriented, definitely not for kids. Part 1 super chat. Okay, I guess we're still waiting for part 2.
It's coming.
But
while we wait,
I would assume that any novel is story and character oriented, but these days, I don't know.
I think I see where he's coming from with that, because there are some books that are like more philosophical and the story and character are just there to express the philosophy.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, kind of
basically.
Like,
yeah. I guess like I was kind of thinking about that in the context of like wokeism and woke entertainment that really just exists to draw a comparison to the real world or teach a moral lesson. And in a way, C.S. Lewis kind of did that, but I don't even mind it because I like the Chronicles of Narnia and I grew up with it. Well, before we get to the second part of your message, Mac, and I think that was all I needed to say. If you guys want to join in on our discussion with a 20 or over super chat or just distract us, either way, totally fine by me. But I guess since Serge isn't here yet, we're going to get started. What's up?
I'll add too, like podcast listeners. I know not everyone gets the chance to watch the show live.
This is important.
But podcast listeners, please give us a rating. It really helps us out with what we're doing. So if you go on your Apple, Spotify.
On Spotify, you can't, I don't think you can review the podcast, but you can rate us, give us 5 stars, or I don't know, give us 1 star if that's how you feel, I guess.
That was a quick crisis party. Holy.
Thank you for the first crisis party.
Very fast.
How did that happen so fast?
Because it's we're a 3-day.
Oh, that makes sense.
3-day total.
Then we're either at like 11 or 12 now since the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yes,
and
please,
on Apple Podcasts, you
yeah.
can send us a review and a rating out of 5 stars. We did have a segment on, I think, like episode 500 where we read your reviews. So if you send in some funny reviews, maybe we'll read them on the show. But yeah, that is something that we've been meaning to emphasize lately. We want you guys to go follow us on the listening platforms and rate us on there. It helps our visibility as well for new viewers, new listeners. And we do have a podcast whisperer on board here at Timcast now who has been just breathing down our necks, telling us to promote this more. So that is our duty. But I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think we do need to revisit Joker 2, though. And I'll start by saying I was fooled by fake news yesterday. This is a fake headline, but I read it and found it to be totally believable and predictable. Todd Phillips defends Joker folie à deux, citing a political message to, quote, diminish problematic male influence. This says, in response to widespread backlash, Todd Phillips defends Joker 2 folie à deux, insisting it compels society to confront its complicity in male entitlement. But Community Notes jumped in to tell us that this screenshot is in fact fake, and I am grateful for that. However, Todd Phillips did recently do an interview with IGN where they were baiting him to basically say exactly that. He didn't take the bait. He did clarify, though, that Joker 2 was not intended to address the toxic fandom. And I think toxic fandom is a phrase that we've heard a lot about recently. It's been popping up in headlines over and over again in reference to The Acolyte, primarily, but Rings of Power, a lot of different projects.
Is it toxic fandom or is it masculine fans?
It's not even that. It's there's an established story.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of Hollywood writers who never had the feeling of parental affection come in and demand that they get to write their self-insert story
right.
on everybody else's favorite legend. So it's like, no, if you want to, they know that they can't write well enough to actually get published or produced on their own because they're not interesting people. And then they just hijack somebody else's beloved story and they mangle it.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, any number of things. This has happened over and over again, and people are sick and tired of it. So you can't really get that goodwill from the audience like so easily as you used to, as Peter Jackson did, actually. So on Friday, we talked about toxic fandoms and the measures that Hollywood studios are taking to protect their talent from toxic fans and toxic online discourse, including confiscating their social media logins to stop them from posting and getting into back and forth with people. But I would assume as adults they would have the wisdom not to do that anyway, but they don't because they're narcissists. So IGN asked Todd Phillips, then is the film, in a way, kind of a commentary on fan entitlement and toxic fandoms? Which is a ridiculous question. That's baiting him, putting him into a corner, essentially, where he has to say the right answer. Mm-hmm. He has to give them the correct answer they were looking for. And thankfully, he did not. Here's what Todd Phillips said. Not so much that, to be honest with you, but one of the things that we always thought about the first movie, or one of the things I definitely said in defending the first movie when it needed to be defended, because people said it's irresponsible, its use of violence. And I saw it quite literally the opposite. I thought it was responsible because it was showing the actual real world effects of violence. It wasn't glamorizing gun use in my mind. It was actually showing this is brutal. And I think the reality of it maybe is what turned people off. One of the things we tried to continue with here is the same idea. A really important scene in the movie is when he's cross-examining the little guy, Gary, because it's showing you the real-world effects of trauma on a person who witnessed it, right? Even beyond just witnessing something horrible, what that does to you. It's 2-3 years later in the movie, and Gary still says he can't sleep. These effects of violence was something we really wanted to kind of, at least that scene addresses some part of it, but not so much the toxic fandom, honestly. But it's a good idea. So they were addressing the fact that in the sequel, it turns out none of what happened in the first movie was a delusion on the Joker's part. But really, he did have a cult of followers who dressed up as him in the streets and idolized him. They made a movie about him, which is kind of underwhelming. I was actually hoping that they would just leave it open-ended. Again, this is a sequel that never needed to exist. Hi, Serge.
Hello.
Serge just walked in. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you? Hi,
Good to see you.
Good.
You brought your own headphones.
Yes.
Why do you do
as
that?
usual.
Because those ones don't work very well, maybe?
Might be.
Well, those weren't broken the last time you used them.
I used these last time, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just more comfy for you.
Yeah, cleanliness, you know.
Well, okay, we were in the middle of talking about Joker 2.
Of course.
Have you seen it?
I have not, but I've seen enough.
Have you seen the first movie?
I watched parts of the first movie as well. I'm not really a big movie guy, I'll be honest, but I saw enough. I saw the stuff on via little clip what's like little clipping on YouTube, little short videos, etc. But I don't know. I know enough. I know that it's a musical. I heard all that stuff. I've watched like the Penguin Zero or like the Moist critical video on it, and
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have much to say beyond that.
We have another 20 from Pickle for Sanity. Too many stories are preachy and revived when they really shouldn't be. People should leave a good story alone once it is made. Every story needs an end. Fantasy short story out Friday on my X as chosen by the people. Okay. Well,
Sweet.
Shout out to Pickle for Sanity if you're interested in that. But the interviewer went on, I'm just thinking the idea of the fans want Joker. They can't necessarily deal with Arthur Fleck, and I'm wondering, he's got fans that show up cosplaying as him, and they're basically like, give us Joker, give us the clown prince of crime. So what this interviewer is basically trying to say is that the fans of the first movie are being portrayed in the second movie as bad people. They were the villains of the sequel.
He's angry that he wrote a very good anti-hero movie.
Oh, we finally got a part 2, $20 super chat from Mac N. My book has a lot of trauma and suffering that the protagonist, Victor Caldwell, endures. There's a lot of violence, magic, also romance, but it is really tame, TBH. Going over the top with intimacy's dumb nowadays. Well, I'm glad there's no smut in your fantasy novel.
Dude, there's what is up with that?
You were
book.
bringing that up
Yeah.
yesterday, and you are confounded by it. There is a huge cottage industry of basically
just everything
erotica for women.
Everything has smut in it, and they wonder why Gen Z is fast forwarding through sex scenes now on TV.
They're like
It's
just
because-
selling this at Barnes and Noble like it's just
Yeah.
normal literature. It's not.
You guys have heard of Colleen Hoover, right?
Yes, yeah.
I have yet to read a single passage of text from one of her books
Nor have I.
that exceeds what I read in my college creative writing courses. Like freshman level creative writing courses, you had 19-year-old college freshmen who were far and away better writers than this woman. Mm-hmm. And yet she's like a Barnes & Noble best-selling author.
We should write.
Yeah, it's funny how that always works in music as well. You hear, like, it's not always better to do something more complex.
But it's all about the marketing.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the covers of Colleen Hoover novels, they just have like flowers on them or some kind of like watercolor like illustration, and it makes it seem on the shelf at Target like it's this like totally harmless like romance novel. Well, people praise her like she is the author of a generation. It's just drivel.
Because sexual themes have been normalized now. This is why you can't shame only fangirls. And this is the same reason why it's in every book now. It's not this crazy sex scene anymore. It's just part of the book.
Yeah, I don't know about Colleen Hoover specifically if she does that type of thing, but
here I'm just
other.
May I?
Yeah.
Because I saw this recently, and you
before
guys need to hear it
we
too.
have a 20 from Francisco Sanchez Jr. Better to suffer from TDS than TDS reversed. I can't type the term. YouTube won't allow it. Put a bread on. We will put a bread on tomorrow. Don't worry. He's coming back soon.
Yeah, but so here we go. This is from an actual Colleen Hoover novel.
All right.
Thank you for this baby, she says from the back seat. He's beautiful. I laugh. You're responsible for the beautiful part, Rachel. The only thing he got from me was his balls. She laughs. She laughs hard. Oh my God, I know. They're so big. We both laugh at our son's big balls. That's a real paragraph
What?
of Colleen Hoover text.
Wait, from which book?
I
What
don't
is the
even
context
know.
here? Do you know?
I don't even know what book it's from. Ugly Love. It's from Ugly Love.
Okay. That's very strange.
Like, don't get me wrong. I love A Song of Ice and Fire. I've read all 5 books. I've read one of the prequel books, not House of the Dragon stuff, the other stuff. There's a lot of graphic stuff in there. It's more graphic than I'd like it to be. At least it's, written in a way that's a little bit less sophomoric.
Sophomoric is actually, you're holding back.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're being way too charitable right now.
It's just like when I see, if I'm into a show or movie or even a piece of literature for that matter, when you get to like an overtly sexual scene, that's just like, it just takes you out of the moment. At least for me. It's like a musical. When they just break out into song and dance, it takes you from the compelling story they were just... It makes it seem not serious anymore. Right. It makes it seem like a party.
Well, especially when it comes to TV shows, I have heard that a lot of studios mandate sex scenes.
I'm sure they do.
Within at least like the first 20 minutes of a TV show so that you can rope people in with something pornographic,
literally,
quite frankly.
And you ruin the novelty of it. Well, now that it's everywhere, it's just it's tired. It's a tired thing to do. It's boring. I've seen this before. Like,
I mean, I'm just saying, if you meet a girl and she says she's really into reading, you need to make sure she's not a porn addict.
Well, if you know if it's the fantasy genre, she is a porn addict. That's what it is.
Just make extra sure.
Yeah,
that's my advice.
There are some books that have that aspect to them that are in the genre that don't do it that way. Like Outlander is an actual story that has some of those scenes in it. And
I still think Outlander's part of the problem.
Oh, Outlander's definitely, the TV show for sure is too much.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to TV, unless there is something that happens during that action that has to happen during that action, I think you can get the exact same story beats across with just implication. A bedroom door closing with 2 people walking in is enough to say, oh, they had sex.
Exactly. And I'm the only person here who has watched Joker 2.
Yeah.
And there is a sex scene in the movie. And
is she Joaquin his Phoenix until he Jokers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she did that. And it was way too drawn out. They should have just implied it or just not written it at all. It was very uncomfortable. I guess that was the point, is to make the audience uncomfortable. But I just don't understand the thought process. It was really just so weird.
Yeah.
They did that with The Boys in the new
predatory
season.
Almost.
There's a shapeshifter character who likes to have a good time with like 7 versions of himself. Not a shapeshifter. He like duplicates himself. So he's got like 7 versions of himself having a grand old time. And I'm just like, why?
And with The Boys, people have complained that there are way too many like actual just scenes depicting sexual assault.
Yes.
And graphically so.
graphically,
in a way that does not serve the story.
Overly sexualized at this point. And listen, I get it. You know, Diddy's in the news, so it's like it's you have to acknowledge that, you know, with the Hollywood elites, they do behave to a certain extent how you see these crazy scenes in movies and television, right? They're kind of like, that's the source material is Diddy parties that kind of spawn scenes like In the Boys.
We have another 20 from V Wit. No, Brett, we fret. Also, read some of the older sci-fi novels like Old Man's War or The Forever War, and it's written well, but full of graphic content. I do agree with Kellen. It's too overt. Also, put a girl on, and hi, Serge. Well, I guess Serge will have to be our girl for the for the day.
We were gonna have a girl on.
Wow.
Yeah, we were gonna have a girl on, but unforeseen circumstances, she could not make it today. So
She got caught behind a one of those, you know, those I guess they're tractors with the big wheels, really tall
really
wheels on the
big
side.
ones.
Did that happen
Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, so I was just
They've been lurking. I've seen a few of them. They're lurking out
They're
there.
It's like the
nowadays.
season for husking corn and combining everything
That's
right now.
so
So
annoying.
it's like, yeah.
Well, no, it was something worse than that, but we're not going to get into it. I did just want to show a video from one of these premiere events for Joker 2 where you can see Joaquin Phoenix basically telling Lady Gaga that he hates the movie. He feels the same way that the fans do.
Okay, I know.
They lip read the conversation,
Yeah.
and I find it convincing. So let's watch.
It's horrible.
Haha. No, it's not. Don't say that.
I do think it was.
You think so?
Certainly.
Oh, why is that?
Yes.
Why? What are you talking
The ending
about?
could have been different.
No, I loved it.
Indeed. Yikes.
And then Todd Phillips comes
Great
over.
film. Thank you. It's horrible.
Thank you.
Yeah, YouTube's problems broke our crisis meter. It's very disappointing.
Our
I think we're at
crisis
like
meter is
12.
broken?
Yeah, YouTube's playing stupid games today.
Oh no.
But
Yeah.
I think that's like 12. Like, so what we did, chat, is we let it go for 3 days rather than resetting it like you normally do. Because when Brett gets back, I want him to know that I have like 15 crisis parties like
Under your belt. Yeah.
Exactly.
You did the work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So-
That's something to be proud of.
Why did the AI voices change multiple times throughout the?
I didn't notice
It's
that.
an AI voice.
No, but they're like they're distinctly different AI voice presets. I don't know. Maybe I'm just autistic.
He probably
But
didn't do it all at the same time. He
At
probably
least
did
for
chunk by
Lady
chunk.
Gaga, you could tell exactly what she was saying, and it was like she was pushing back on whatever Joaquin Phoenix was saying in that moment. And
Probably
he-
we don't deserve this.
Probably, yeah.
You think this was a humiliation ritual for Joaquin?
I don't think humiliation rituals are nearly as real as people think they are.
It was something of a humiliation ritual toward the character that the original audience resonated with.
Just
yeah.
Joker? I mean,
To show him
the criminal
graphically
Joker?
Yeah.
getting murdered at the end. Sorry if that's a spoiler and you were planning to see it, but you shouldn't see it. But before that, you know, showing him, first of all, get rejected by his female love interest in the movie. Then directly after that, you see the scene where he gets gang raped by multiple men. They didn't graphically show that, but it was
spoilers.
it was in the. I mean, I don't care. I'm gonna say the spoiler because you shouldn't see the movie anyway. I'd be glad if this stopped
It's
you
a
from
musical.
watching it.
It's not even a movie. It's like a musical, right?
It's a musical that kills the Joker, both figuratively and literally.
I can't believe I was even slightly optimistic like a year ago when I heard
I don't.
it was a joke. Like
I was
had my
open to
doubts.
liking it, even going in. I was open to liking it. I always am, but
I should have known better.
everyone knows now, even Joaquin Phoenix, that this movie was an utter disaster.
Didn't he it didn't come from a dream of his or something like that?
Yeah, he said
a
that he
dream.
had a dream about
That's
a sequel
hilarious.
and then
That's so funny.
worked with Todd Phillips on it. And
Wait, so is he having gay dreams?
you know
Yeah,
what's
probably.
funny?
I feel like this
Recently-
can't have been his dream.
Recently,
That's what he says, man. That's what he claims.
Joaquin Phoenix dropped out of a
Subconscious.
movie recently because they had gay scenes for him in the movie and he was uncomfortable with it. But strangely enough, there was a scene where he kissed another male prisoner in the sequel for Joker.
What kind of kiss? Like a?
It was like a peck.
Okay.
In like 2 or 3 weeks, she's gonna come out as gay.
There's
full fledged.
like,
there's a
What's going
difference
on?
because
It's just like
there's
these
different kinds of
slow
kisses, you know.
What's
there's
going on
there's a
there?
little
soft
pack.
launch of I'm gay. That's
So maybe this is the movie that made him uncomfortable with doing gay stuff on camera for the rest of his career.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to move on from Joker 2. I didn't want to spend too much time on that. What I wanted to get to was some stuff that I was planning to talk about on Monday, but we didn't have enough time. First off, I want to talk about Tom Cruise and his history in the Church of Scientology. How did he get into this mess in the first place? I was reminded of this because recently there was a rumor going around that the Church of Scientology was planning to buy the Jim Henson Company lot in LA. That turned out getting debunked, but it just reminded me the most famous Scientologist, of course, is Tom Cruise. And it doesn't come up very often how he ended up becoming a Scientologist. So I wanted to get into that backstory. Essentially, it was because his first wife convinced him to join. And I know a lot of people talk about his marriage to Katie Holmes. They talk about his marriage to Nicole Kidman as well. But a lot of people don't know about his marriage to Mimi Rogers when he was 23. And I had never heard of this woman, but she was an actress at the time. They got married in the late 1980s. They met at a dinner party, reportedly, while he was working on Top Gun. We got another 20 from Mac N. I'm Gen Z. I'm 25. I have no issue writing violent scenes, but smut makes me feel gross trying to write. I don't know what it is. While there are some philosophical and moral arguments, it's not overt. I'll let you know when it's done.
Yeah, I think this is how you know men and women are different, because women authors do not have any problem writing smut. And it's very rarely happens in men's literature, and if it does, it's usually depicting like horrible abuse.
Well, I guess
historical
probably
stuff.
because men are visual, so they watch pornography. Women, I guess, have a more like cerebral,
that's what they say.
yeah, attraction to reading about it.
But
instead,
it almost just feels like pointless. It's like why do I need to, I don't know. It seems like a waste of time to me.
I've heard it put like this: guys get off from head, girls get off from head canon. That's what I've heard.
I hate that.
I hate that.
That's essentially what it is.
I never wanted to hear that phrase. It was against my will.
I also didn't want to hear about Joker 2's gay sex scene, so
Aidan,
here we are.
You were telling me earlier that Scientology scares the shit out of you.
Scares the hell out of me.
Can you tell me why? Why that specifically? With all of the things that you cover on your channel, why would Scientology scare you?
So, most cults do not have any degree of institutional power behind them.
Okay.
Like most things that we would consider out and out cults, right? Mm-hmm. Scientology has been known to, when people try and expose their inner workings, Scientologists have been known to do like remarkable character assassinations. Like they will invent things that are so legitimate looking that it's hard to get away from it. They will ruin your life for doing something, and there's that threat if you try to leave as well. So, I wanted to do a video on Scientology. We were doing some cult videos. I was like,
I'll watch that for sure.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
My co-host, who's my producer and my editor, refused.
Really?
He was like, I will not shoot it. I will not edit it. I will not help. He was like, we're not doing this because I don't want them to come and screw up our lives, because we have a big enough platform that they would notice.
Right.
And listen, I don't like it, but I value my life and my ability to research and hopefully contribute to the study of history in the future as a professor. Like I value that. So I'm just going to stay away.
Right.
You've been scared
They
of
are
silence.
Yeah,
uniquely
literally. There are a few people I will
interested.
not talk shit about. That's one of them.
Scientologists do seem uniquely interested with controlling public perceptions, and I think former Scientologist Leah Remini has talked about that a lot. She's talked about her experience getting sucked into the Church of Scientology and how they tried to do character assassination on her after, like, in the media after she left.
How do they convince people? Like, obviously they've got ways to persuade people, but I don't see how they go to someone that's very religious in the first place and convince them to leave the church and go join Scientology.
But it's so easy
Is it just
when
people
that
that are
person
agnostic and non-religious.
Right. It sounds like
of the
that's
time.
kind of what
Most of
happened
the time.
with Tom Cruise. This says Tom Cruise was married for a few years in the late 1980s to an actress named Mimi Rogers. Now, for context, Mimi Rogers was raised in the Church of Scientology. So she apparently stuck with it. Her father ended up becoming what they call a squirrel, starting his own other branch, other sect of Scientology later on. But she is widely credited as the woman who got Tom Cruise into Scientology. This actress allegedly brought him into the controversial church, which later led him to be the, quote, golden boy of Scientology. Their brief romance started sometime in the mid-1980s with varying accounts of how exactly they met. Soon after they got together, they wed secretly in New York. They seemed like a normal, happy couple, but their marriage was brief. So what's weird is that they tell completely opposite stories of how they met, which in itself is very weird. Tom Cruise and Mimi Rogers met, but they both had different accounts of how it happened. Cruise insisted for years that they met at a dinner party while he was making Top Gun and that he was interested in Rogers, but she was with someone at the time. However, Mimi Rogers claims that they were set up by mutual friends a whole year after Tom Cruise claimed. She told The Sun back in 1987, quote, "I wasn't seeing anybody, he wasn't seeing anybody, and our friends thought, these people should be going out. Let's see if they want to go out with each other. And we said, oh, what the heck?" I mean, I'm not trying to read into it too much, but why would they have totally different stories?
I don't know. That's weird. I do think that a large part of this, though, the reason that, today in 2024, we're like, why the hell do people join Scientology? That makes no sense. Everybody knows it's a cult. In the 80s.
No one knew anything yet.
I'm not saying, not even that, man. I'm saying,
Sorry, we have a 20 from Buzzard.
Yeah.
Thank you for covering the cult my parents met in.
Oh.
My lack of sanity always ties back to those Satanists. If your parents actually met in the Church of Scientology, I need to know more. Please tell us the story of how that happened.
Send some voicemails in.
Send a voice message. How about that? Join the Discord.
It's either like Florida or like Southern California, because they have a huge center up in North Hollywood, and they have the giant blue building everyone knows about in LA as well. Yeah. And they have like the Celebrity Center, which is where I live pretty close to, which is like exclusively if you're a well-to-do person of high society. And I think that's part of it too, is they can offer you to do stuff.
Okay, I was gonna say, what's the appeal? Like, is it cool?
It's like a crazy secret army of like, it's like the dollar store Mossad, basically. When you hear the stuff that they've done, which I'm sure you can talk about, they dude, it's crazy.
Well, do you think they're like
an organization,
a competing force for Freemasons, or trying to maybe
that's what they're trying to do. That's part of it.
It seems very much like that is kind of what's going on here. Like Freemasonry, there's a 600-year history that you can talk about there that it would take an entire episode to get through. So without going deeply into that, the main reason that people join Freemasonry in the 21st century and in the 20th century as well is the community, the brotherhood, the networking. It's a way for you to, basically have a little club where everybody is obligated to help each other.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people take that too far, and they're like, oh, well, that means you have to hide crimes. It doesn't. Like, we're supposed to kick out Masons who do things that are wrong, it doesn't always happen, but that's not the point.
According to who?
Yeah, well, legally, like adultery, not allowed. Like morally and legally, there are things. It's all based on biblical concepts. But to get back to this, I think it's kind of the same thing, where you're doing this for the networking, for the community, and because it's technically a religion, it's all tax-free. It's probably a tax shelter and a tax haven for a lot of things.
That's why it's in Hollywood and LA.
Yeah, so I think it seems to me, especially being founded by, a guy who, I believe, as Joe Rogan put it, wrote the most untrue, wrote the most nonsense or the most fiction of anybody ever.
Fiction. He wrote so much science fiction. When you read the book itself, like I forget what it's called. Not to do with like the religious stuff where they detect engrams and stuff through like a psychiatric test. But when you read the book itself, it reads like a science fiction novel. I read a bunch of science fiction when I was a kid. I was a nerd and in third grade reading science fiction novels. It reads like that. It's like that with like a layer of and so it comes to pass type. Book of Mormon stuff layered on top of it, and then also like some stuff clearly taken from obviously like Abrahamic religions and stuff like that. It's just a wild. It reads like fiction, but they're just convincing you it's true. I
think a large part of it, a really great connection here, something that you can look back at historically, that we can see this. What I think is the same thing that happened with Scientology, where I think it probably started out as like a way for Hollywood people to avoid some taxes and get away and do something secretive.
Right. Yeah.
Bohemian Grove was the same way. It started off in San Francisco with journalists who were just meeting at a bar after work to do something that wasn't journalism before they went home. Like, and then over time, you know, it morphed.
A cult is born.
You had rich people who were like, well, I want to join into this because, you know, you guys need a place to do your thing, and I want a secret little hangout group. And then over time, it morphs into being,
comes out of the
a place where powerful people go to talk about the Manhattan Project and weird things like that. Yeah. So I think that's probably what happened with Scientology. I think
but something really sinister about it is the auditing that they do.
It's all super creepy.
Basically, your entire psyche. Yeah. They audit your psyche and your conscience until you're clear.
Exactly.
Until you're in a state of clear.
Yeah.
It's very esoteric and hard to grasp what they mean, because obviously they're only going to tell you the version of it that is. I mean, that makes them look less crazy.
It's like having a LARPing group that somehow turns into, you know, a cult. Like you and your buddies are just going and goofing off in the woods, and then 50 years later, you're Scientology.
Yeah, so they got married when Tom Cruise was 23, Mimi Rogers was 29. They said they kept the wedding secret with only Emilio Estevez attending.
Why specifically Emilio Estevez?
And weirdly enough, she used to date Emilio Estevez before she married Tom
That's all so weird.
Super weird. But they said it was because they didn't want the press to scrutinize their age gap of 6 years.
Yeah, and he was the
I don't buy it. I don't buy that. I don't buy that excuse. So the close family friend of Mimi Rogers spoke on a blog about how she originally wanted Tom Cruise to get into Scientology to make him stop his wandering eye, to put it lightly. Tom was effing everything that moved, but they were all women. I know why the gay rumors started later, but it had nothing to do with who he was having sex with. He slept with women, and he slept with a lot of them. So Mimi Rogers wanted him to become a Scientologist, I suppose, to temper his sexual proclivities. But also, of course, because she's trying to recruit him into this thing she's been in her entire life.
You know what this sounds like? Is if you've watched How I Met Your Mother, it sounds like the character of Barney Stinson. Like he's sleeping with everything that moves, but then he also gets himself in these insane predicaments. You know,
well,
while
I guess
trying
this
to
was the
accomplish those
predicament
goals.
that he got himself into at quite a young age. People don't realize that. When he was more impressionable, of course. And what I understand from reading through all of this is that David Miscavige, the current, and he was still the head of Scientology at the time, David Miscavige became very involved in their life, in their marriage. He was intent on becoming very close friends with Tom Cruise, and he essentially ran surveillance on them, even to the point of the staff in their home, housekeepers, giving him intel as to what was going on, what they were talking about in private. And he was heavily concerned with this couple. So in 1989, Mimi Rogers and Tom Cruise split up. It's alleged that when Mimi Rogers saw there was something between Cruise and Nicole Kidman, she demanded that they go to Scientology's version of marriage counseling. I can't imagine what that entails. However, it didn't work, and they continued divorce proceedings. It's unclear why they split up for good. Many theorized it was the age gap or the fact that she was only referred to as Tom Cruise's wife, and even the Church of Scientology.
I think it's probably way more simple than that. I think that Scientology wanted, you know, a golden boy, and so they had somebody honeypot Tom Cruise.
And she was assigned to him.
I would not be surprised.
If there's like big state like blackmail going on, that makes sense. Like maybe if Epstein was East Coast, Scientology was West Coast.
Now this sounds like influence straight from David Miscavige. Mimi Rogers told Playboy in 1993 that they ended their marriage because of Tom Cruise's desire to become a monk. That just sounds like it came from David Miscavige himself. She said, Tom was seriously thinking of becoming a monk, at least for that period of time. It looked as though marriage wouldn't fit into his overall spiritual need.
Sounds like I'm pretty sure Kanye said something similar at
Did
some
he?
point. Yeah, just
About his
like,
divorce from Kim?
Well, no, the marriage is like, if you listen to his early rap stuff, I think he like blasted monogamy all the time. He's very critical of it. He had needs, Mary, just like Tom Cruise.
And I read further into this blog, The Underground Bunker, which is written by a former Scientologist, that claimed much of the subsequent news coverage focused on revelations by Mark Rathbun. He was a former Scientology executive. And he claimed that the Church of Scientology actively drove a wedge between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman once he was married to Kidman, helping end their relationship. Primarily because Nicole Kidman was not a Scientologist, and she actually tried to get him to leave and succeeded for a short period of time in the early 2000s before he went back. This says the Church of Scientology was so active helping to break up Tom Cruise's second marriage. How involved were they in ending his first to Mimi Rogers? This says Mark Rathbun told Vanity Fair in 2012 that Scientology had a hand in ending both relationships. I participated in the Mimi divorce and the Nick divorce. Both women got cold on David Miscavige. He was integral to the breakup of their marriages. He tells us there's a much more involved story that has never been published about how Scientology was involved in the breakup of Cruise and Mimi Rogers. With the help of Mark Rathbun and several other sources, some of whom have never spoken before, we've put together a story that should fill in important gaps. So basically they said that Mimi Rogers was coming between Tom Cruise and David Miscavige's friendship or mentorship or spiritual leadership, whatever you want to call it. So she was persona non grata. And David Miscavige essentially wanted them broken up so that he could have more influence over Tom Cruise, which leads us to current day, where some people claim Tom Cruise is almost regarded as a deity among Scientologists. He is just at least described by Leah Remini, a former Scientologist, as the second to David Miscavige, quote, a savior of the free world who is considered a deity within Scientology. Obviously, Tom Cruise has never spoken publicly to this perception.
Did you
but
guys?
He wouldn't if it were true.
Did you guys know that David Miscavige, however you pronounce that name, you guys see that his wife has been missing since 2007?
Yeah.
The LAPD just won't investigate it, and her lawyers are like, no, she's just chilling.
A lot of people talk about this.
In today's day and age, how the hell do you avoid ever being seen for, what is that, 17 years?
No, they think that she's just like literally is inside one of the room or a couple of the rooms inside that big blue building.
Probably.
Or one of the other buildings they have. They have like a huge complex in North Hollywood as well. Maybe people around there have seen it as well. I guess it's very clearly labeled like the Church of Scientology.
How come no one's done like
it could be anywhere?
Guerrilla journalism, undercover? Like, why isn't
The reason I just said earlier.
Because they'll ruin your life.
They'll destroy you.
Yeah, but people
They might even kill you.
Dude, Alex Jones found his way into Bohemian Grove. There's got to be someone.
I'll do it.
But that's the thing about Bohemian Grove is
I'm there.
Bohemian Grove, yeah, there's all the legends and the lore, but at the end of the day, the people there cannot be caught like disappearing Alex Jones, especially in 2000 when he was not nearly as controversial. Or whenever it was that he made the video.
But
like,
he was still relatively a public figure.
he was, but you know, I think there's a difference between pre-Sandy Hook Alex Jones and post-Sandy Hook Alex Jones in terms of
Pre-internet
notoriety.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, in terms of notoriety. Like Austin radio host Alex Jones, you know, had a following. I don't think the government considered him a danger.
Right.
Now he's obviously persona non grata for a number of reasons, several of which I do think are reasonable.
I'm just saying, listen, men have flaws. Like, man has flaws, and I guarantee a journalist can go undercover. It might be like a 10-year stint, but that would be the scoop of a lifetime.
It would be,
I
but
mean,
does it matter if you're tarnished?
going
it matters if they've got people locked up in rooms in there. I mean, I want to learn about that. Like,
or just, you know, if they're perhaps killing people. We don't know. But I find it very telling that Nicole Kidman was open to Scientology at the beginning of her relationship with Tom Cruise, but then couldn't hang. Because, as she told it herself, her experience of completing an auditing internship at Scientology London They say auditing is a form of therapy, so-called therapy, where a low-level person called a pre-clear holds onto electrodes that direct electricity through the body, moving a needle on a machine called an e-meter that supposedly registers harmful energy related to painful experiences. The auditor, a more senior Scientology member, asks the pre-clear questions to help them reach new realizations about existence. And I guess that's what Nicole Kidman took issue with, after all.
It sounds like a lie detector test.
Especially involving their kids in this.
Yeah.
We have another 20 from Pop Culture Junkie. I do know one thing about the Tom Cruise marriage/divorce stories. There were a lot of people that signed a lot of onerous NDAs, especially Katie Holmes. Yeah. Well, I mean, Hugh Jackman, allegedly a member of a different cult in Scientology.
We'll get to that one.
We'll get to that in a minute. Also had his ex-wife sign a very extensive NDA so that she could get a bigger portion of his wealth. I also looked into John Stamos' experience getting lured into the Church of Scientology when he was a newbie in Hollywood.
boy.
So Stamos said it was both his acting idol, John Travolta, and some hot girl he met in acting class who inspired him to go to a meeting at the Church of Scientology's center on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oof, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He said, I was in an acting class and there was a hot girl who said to me, you know, we're all meeting at this place on Hollywood Boulevard. You should come after class. And he said, I was working at my dad's restaurant at the time, and I said, Dad, I gotta go. So I went, and it was the Scientology building.
You guys know how St. Patrick converted the Irish?
How? Tell us.
He converted the women first. He went to the women, he spoke to them about Christianity, and got wives to convert. And in turn, their children and their husbands ended up converting down the line. It didn't happen immediately.
Rock the cradle, rule the world.
I don't think, maybe that worked for Irish culture at that time, but in America is proof that that doesn't work.
So yes, but it's
look at wokeism though. Wokeism is riding.
No. Abortion is abortion is a largely woman issue, and men are not men are not following suit. They're not being like, okay, I'm for it now because that's what all the girls are.
Sure, but I think
it's a different issue though.
We're also talking, I think, about a different. These are disparate concepts between the politics and the religion. It was a binary in Ireland. You had Irish paganism and you had Catholic Christianity, or what was to become Catholic Christianity.
Thank you.
Epic take.
So, I'm gonna wait.
Well, I mean, you said Tom Cruise got honeypotted.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going with it.
And it sounds like they were trying to honeypot John Stamos.
Exactly. I think that's what. I don't think that they were necessarily.
Get some hot girl to tell you, oh, we're going to this place on Hollywood Boulevard, and then you end up there, and it's the Church of Scientology.
I think it's the same approach with a little bit of gender reversal to an extent, but in the same vein, because you've got. You're sending these hot girls out to entice young Hollywood superstars who in turn have an army of other girls who like them and want to follow them. And then you have boys who look up to these men because there's a whole bunch of girls who like those men. Through a little bit of a process of osmosis, you can pick up new Scientologists, or you can at least get people to be comfortable with what you're doing because, John Stamos, he's the Full House guy.
Right.
There couldn't be anything wrong with that. No. I like Dr. Nikki.
Exactly. So John Stamos said he ultimately never made it past one of his introductory sessions at the Church of Scientology. After arriving, Stamos claimed he was brought into the building and introduced to a machine known as the e-meter, which he claimed was made out of 2 cans. The church claims that its electropsychometer device can indicate changes in emotional states to identify stored engrams and levels of spiritual distress. Stamos said he immediately started playing around with the device, pretending to have a fake phone conversation. He's a performer at heart.
What if it's just one giant mog?
They didn't like that. Then I was just effing around so much, and they said, get out, get going. They just kicked me out.
That's what they would do to Serge. That sounds like how Serge would handle the whole situation.
So, I mean, I guess, thankfully for John Stamos, he was too silly to stick around in the Church of Scientology.
But I wonder if it is just a giant mog, and if you're willing to do the nonsense, ritual in the beginning, they're like, all right, There's no such thing. We're just messing with the entire world. Like, are you cool?
I think it's really powerful that Tom Cruise is such an influence and he's so likable and charismatic, and that's why they saw him as the perfect candidate to be, you know, the right-hand man to the leader of this religion. And he doesn't talk about it publicly very much. He isn't even prompted to. I'm sure that actually interviewers are told not to bring it up. And that's kind of the point, is to keep it under wraps. And learning about the way that he was lured into this was just really interesting to me. I don't think we're ever going to know the full story.
It makes a lot more sense knowing that there was this relationship involved, because I mean, I'm sure the men in the room can attest that there have been times where you have considered doing something you knew was very stupid for a woman.
Sure. That's almost a universal experience.
Yeah, like I think that's... there have been times where I've been like, I probably shouldn't do this, and then I do it because...
But it wasn't joining a cult.
It was not joining
thankfully.
a cult, no. I did go to a community theater performance.
Okay.
That's a cult.
So
Same
basically
thing.
a cult.
Yeah,
that was not a great time. That did not end well for me at
Okay,
all.
I want to get into some more cult stuff, but we will read some super chats first. Potatoes for Seamus said, hi, Aidan. Hi, Mary and Kellen. Happy Praise
And Serge.
Aidan Day. Is it Praise Aidan Day?
I don't know. Maybe.
No, it's Leif Erikson Day.
They didn't know you were going to be here,
Garden.
Serge. Shane H. Wilder said, happy Wednesday, Mary, Aidan, and Kellen. And Serge, I'll add that. Today's Exorcist Files is perfect for October, a round table where Father Martins talks shop with other exorcists. Ooh.
I'm going to be doing tomorrow night with Wendigoon a podcast on biblical demonology.
I think you should
over on the Weird Bible.
Get Father Martins on
You gotta
your
get
channel.
Ian
That
on
would be
that
really
show,
interesting.
man. Ian will challenge you.
He probably will.
I would love to see it. Andrew Jacobs said, Hail Mary, fave Lana Del Dufresne songs / albums. I honestly am not a fan of her newer stuff, but the what was it? Tough with Quavo, that was pretty good. More recently.
Who are we talking about?
Lana.
Lana Del Rey?
Yeah.
I only
Yes,
like
Lana
her
Del Rey.
one song with A$AP Rocky.
I'm mostly a Born to Die girly. We have another 20 from
Oh, boy.
VWit. There were a lot of companies back in the day that did similar tactics. They were called pyramid schemes and made illegal. Yes, good point.
Well, they just turned into MLMs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And
have a hot Lana Del Rey take.
Okay, tell us.
The entirety of Tortured Poets Department is Taylor Swift trying to be Lana Del Rey and failing.
Oh no, that's completely true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's not even a hot take. That's just a universal.
She was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna copy the homework from Dead Poet Society and just change the name a little bit, and then I'm gonna copy Lana Del Rey, and then
now take that with the rise of Olivia Rodrigo, Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Roan. You look at it
and
from
Tate McRae too.
Tate McRae, right?
Never heard of her
They tried
yet?
something new.
It'll be soon.
They tried something new with Pop Girls, the Pop's It Girl. It failed. Lana's doing her own thing, getting married to alligator
she's
people.
good over there.
Lana seems like she's having a great time.
Right. So they're like,
Thriving.
okay, well, we're about to have a massive problem on our hands. Hurry, quick, get someone new.
Right. They wanted to avoid a pop star drought.
Ice Spice failed. Doja Cat got weird. So hip hop girls, they're like, this isn't working.
Doja put out a rock version of Say So.
Really?
Oh.
I think she needs to do the Miley Cyrus thing and just start making rock
She's
music.
I need to listen to this
She's
after
not
the show.
friendly to advertisers.
No.
Like, that's what it is. But she's doing her own thing.
I don't listen to her music, but I from what I know of her as a person, which is very little to be fair, she seems cool.
Okay. Shane H. Wilder said Kellen mewed so hard that he was late for the show.
No, we weren't late.
It was YouTube doing some
YouTube things.
stuff to us.
YouTube got caught behind a farm
Craig
vehicle.
Duvier said, do we get cute of the day today? No, we will have cute of the day tomorrow.
I've got cringe. I mean,
what's
I've
the
got
cringe?
I've got
The
some
internet.
cringe. I mean, let me know when you want to pull it up.
Do you
man.
want the... I mean, go ahead. Show
I don't find it cringe. This is like I live for it. You want to? We'll
the
do it
Costco
at the end.
family? Okay, we'll
We'll
wait
do it at
until
the
the end then. The White Trash Panda said Mattis claims to be a master debater, but his debates with flat earthers and Tartarians says otherwise. Hi, Ghosty and producer Guy.
Trash Panda's just trying to make me mad. He watches all my stuff.
Okay. I did see some flat earthers in the comments on Monday, though. They were not happy with you. Jamesy Boy 1066 said you aren't late. Everyone's was simply early.
See, told you.
Yes.
No.
Really, the
Serge
audience
was right.
was early.
YouTube got stuck behind a farm vehicle on the road.
It's known.
Corey Anderson said Brett was supposed to be back. Been a long honeymoon. I told you Thursday. Okay,
He will be back tomorrow. I'll be gone.
I've been reassuring you all week. He will be back tomorrow, and we'll listen to your voicemails.
For all the haters,
And he's not on honeymoon. Okay, what's with all this speculation? The White Trash Panda said, I must insult, tease Mattis every stream he's on. It's what I do. This is long-standing tradition. Aidan can confirm.
It
Love
is.
y'all. Okay, thank you for clearing that.
Somebody's got to keep me nice and humble.
Okay, I want to talk about Jared Leto next. More cult stuff.
Oh, great. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I hate this because I love some of 30 Seconds to Mars music.
That's okay.
Like, I really
separate art from the artist. This is a situation where you separate art from the artist.
Yeah, The Kill is one of my favorite songs. It's such an incredible vocal performance.
Yeah. So Jared Leto, in case you were unaware, Jared Leto is allegedly a cult leader. And these allegations came about because of a summer camp that he holds for adults called Camp Mars. It's also been called the Church of Mars. And it's for super fans of 30 Seconds to Mars who call themselves the Echelon. That's actually the name of the fandom, the Echelon.
Sounds
Incredible.
normal.
And this is a summer
normal.
camp that started back in 2015. It was based in Malibu. It started out just roasting marshmallows, telling stories, free concerts, that type of thing. It was expensive, but of course it was for super fans. But in 2019, Jared Leto decided to take this camp international, and they held it in Croatia that year before COVID. And here you can see all of the pictures that came from that event. A bunch of women, basically, dressed in white on a beach, I guess, gathered around Jared Leto looking suspiciously cult-like.
Jim Jones.
And if you look into the crowd,
guys, we know how these end.
if you look into the crowd in this picture, it's literally all women. Literally all women. And it's giving Jim Jones vibes.
We all
can't
see
deny that.
the deliberate attempt to look like Jesus, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you can't deny it. You can't deny it. So I read a blog post from someone who claimed they went to Camp Mars before it became a cult. And they said, long story short, no, Camp Mars really isn't a cult. Personally, I think Jared Leto thinks it's a cult or wants it to be, and no one has ever really told him no. And that's what I think. I think Jared Leto is the kind of guy who wishes that he could be a cult leader, but he's just not cool enough. He's just not influential enough. He can't really make it happen, but he's trying his darndest.
We talked about Laurel Canyon a few months back on this show with Ian Carroll and Shane Cashman, which he owns. I forget the controversy there, but it's like
He
a weird
owns Laurel Canyon. He owns a place in Laurel Canyon.
Right. Well, there's a building I thought called Laurel Canyon, like
Laurel
a
Canyon's a
specific
canyon.
building.
Okay, I have a 20
more
from
cults
Francisco
in the
Sanchez
neighborhood.
Jr. I'm not going to read the
Yeah,
first part
sure.
because it's a little explicit. This is my show. Go, go, go. This is my show. Lana Del Rey singing about Kamala Harris, probably. I completely agree.
Did you want to write summaries for the pod? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was the AI summary for us.
Was it? It sounds like it
been.
was.
For yesterday's
yeah.
episode. So Jared Leto's alleged cult, this notion of Jared Leto running a cult stems from his leadership of a 3-day retreat on a private island in 2019. This was in Croatia. During this event, attendees were encouraged to get matching tattoos, and Jared Leto himself dressed in all-white attire. It was dubbed Mars Island, a creative getaway for his band and their closest collaborators. But then they gave the debunking note here. While the retreat may have seemed unusual or intense to some, there is no conclusive evidence to support the claim that Jared Leto is running a cult. The event was like a creative bonding experience for the band and their close collaborators, rather than a religious or ideological indoctrination.
Yeah, that's why Manson had all those people hanging out at the Beach Boys' house.
Right.
Yeah, that was
that.
it was
Creative
just
collaboration.
Creative collaboration, just doing some drugs and writing music, man.
Obviously.
I like to imagine that Jared Leto must be so upset with Elon Musk right now because Elon Musk is like not making people wear. He's not instituting dress codes where you have to wear all white, right? He's actually going to go to Mars.
Wait, who says Elon is a cult leader?
No, just at the fact like it's called Mars Island.
Right.
He wants to be the leader.
Elon
of this tribe of people,
copped
right?
his
Elon's like,
brand.
well, like if we go to Mars, which we probably will well, someone's gonna have to be the president of Mars. How about me?
I will say I don't think Jared Leto has it in him to be a real cult leader. I think
No,
this is
he's
just a bunch of
half-assing
women who
it.
think he's hot.
But the funny
and
thing
think
is,
they might get
like
to
a
sleep
harem.
with him.
like
It's a
they
harem.
tweeted out all
just
of these
groupies.
pictures from the retreat where all of these women were gathered around him wearing white on the beach, and
That's
they
what groupies
captioned
do.
it, "Yes, this is a cult." So I'm just gonna take them at their word.
I didn't know Jared Leto was this popular.
To be fair,
I didn't either.
I have been talking about this ranch in Wyoming idea on our show, and people have said it's a cult, and I have been joking about it being a cult, even though it very
Are
deliberately
you a
will not be.
potential cult leader?
Apparently.
Do you have what it takes?
No.
So okay, but
I'm so disorganized.
where do cults begin and where do they end, right? Because New York City, New Yorkers have a very distinct identity. They behave a certain way, they speak a certain way.
I had someone once tell me that the Catholic Church is a cult. And
I've heard
I'm like,
that too. So where does it start?
I'm
and
sorry,
where does it end?
I don't think you can run a cult that has over 1 billion members.
It's just
I don't really
I've
buy
heard
that.
people say it's the
Yeah.
most successful cult that ever has existed.
It's pretty subjective. If you go by the actual academic definition of what a cult is, all religions are cults.
Basically.
A cult just means a group of people who devote themselves to an individual. That can be a deity, that can be a human, it can even sometimes be a concept. If you look at something like Buddhism, all of those are technically the cult of something.
But if we go by the definition, it's a very specific sociological
Today, yes.
phenomenon, especially in the modern era, and it implies that it's based on a false idol or a false idea. It says a cult is a religious sect or religion generally considered to be extremist or false, with its followers often living in an unconventional manner under the guidance of an authoritarian, charismatic leader.
Yeah, what you see a lot of with cults specifically is very intense and coordinated cognitive dissonance. So it's, there's, I'm sure that some people would call Christians victims of cognitive dissonance. I disagree because I just do. But there's they will deliberately force your mind to break. And that's what I think modern cults tend to be.
Isn't that what the military does?
You don't buy that?
Military breaks you down.
I just didn't think about it.
They want to reshape you in their image.
They let you out though.
Okay, fair.
Well, it
Cults
says
don't.
Fair.
30 Seconds to Mars has been using the tagline, "Yes, this is a cult," for years now on social
okay,
media, in merch, in music videos. In 2013, Jared Leto told the New York Times that it was a joke, a response to journalists saying you have a cult following. This is the first time, though, that the band has taken the reference to its most literal conclusion, even though they've been holding summer camps for a while now.
It's a marketing, maybe it's like an elaborate marketing thing.
It is.
I mean, I
all money.
I lead little camping trips to national parks now. That's a thing that I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did it start like that?
It's a cult.
Is that a cult?
Yeah, it's a
okay.
cult.
All right.
Just
Well,
so you know.
that was my question. Like, when does it stop being a fan base or a hobby that many people share and it start being a cult?
I think when people are willing to die for it.
And I think there has to be some deliberate,
I mean, then
leadership.
religion, by that definition, then religions are cults.
Yeah,
Well, they are.
Do you
They're
guys
based on the definition of
remember
what it is.
Cut for Bieber? Do you remember
No.
that?
Yes, I
Oh
do.
my
I do
You
actually
remember
remember that.
I was part of this. Part of some of those.
You were cutting for Bieber?
I'm going to consider them operations.
Okay, we are not endorsing cutting for Bieber or for anyone or anything.
So messed up, dude.
That is okay.
It wasn't necessarily that operation, but I'm saying there were many
Yeah.
operations that went on. And notably, one of my personal favorites was putting your iPhone inside of the microwave and turning the microwave on. But if you fell for that one, man,
That's just stupid.
I can't help you.
Yeah,
Like-
sorry.
Well, listen, you don't
but-
need to join a cult now because now we have TikTok trends.
right.
But I think the leadership, the coordination, the deliberate nature of it is, I think, probably one of what I would say is a core factor.
Okay.
Like Heaven's Gate,
Right.
like those people were following
They
the
were-
aliens. Technically,
They were about it. They really.
Which cults have you covered on your channel?
believers.
I know I've covered the Manson family, which I got one thing wrong in that has haunted me to this day, but it wasn't actually connected to Manson. It was connected to me thinking that somebody was actually a different doctor. Like, I'm mad about it, but it's not a big deal. We've covered Manson, we've covered Heaven's Gate, and
David Koresh,
and we've covered the Bohemian Grove, the Illuminati, and Freemasonry.
We have another 20 from Buzzard.
We have not gotten to Waco yet because when we were going to do it, Wendigoon did it, so we didn't do it.
Buzzard said, "Cognitive dissonance indeed. I'm lucky all I had to do was go to a weird school. My sister barely got out of the Sea Org alive.
Sea Org is their Navy where you
Okay.
sign on for a 1 billion-year term.
I prefer the cult of Buddhists since they aspire to chill the F out." I don't know much about Buddhism or if that's true.
I don't think I've ever met an actual
I'm glad that you aren't
Buddhist.
in Scientology anymore.
I've been to Buddhist temples, but I've never, like, I guess so, yeah, then I have, but I've never met, like, a peer of mine who was, like, a practicing Buddhist.
That's because most white people who practice Buddhism are not practicing
Well, they're just
Buddhism.
kind of being edgelords.
Yeah.
I met one kid when I was a teenager who claimed he was a Buddhist. I asked him, like, one question about, like, what are the teachings of Buddhism?
what are the
He had
8
nothing.
values?
He had nothing.
Yeah, if you don't know those,
define
you're not
nirvana.
Buddhist.
And
Right,
also,
right,
like,
right.
I consider myself to be one of the more curious people who looks into this type of thing as it relates to Hollywood. And I was unaware of Hugh Jackman's cult affiliations.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman is allegedly also in a cult, not Scientology, not Jared Leto's thing, but something else called the School of Philosophy and Economic Science, or SES for short. I found this out from a viral tweet saying Hugh Jackman is in a weird cult and is besties with Rupert Murdoch, and everyone just ignores this. They say he had an ex-wife sign a massive NDA in exchange for quite a bit of money after they split. And then when Rupert Murdoch's newspapers were convicted of hacking celebrity cell phones illegally, Hugh Jackman, made a statement about how hard this was for Rupert Murdoch. Not a word, mind you, about the multiple victims who had their nudes stolen or private S lifted to sell tabloid rags. And Hugh Jackman is the godfather of 2 Murdoch's children. He promoted SES in an Oprah interview in 2006 and stated his son attends one of their schools. SES portrays itself as a philosophical thought project with no real monetary cost to join, but has branches with different names in like 20 countries. A female ex-member described it as being homophobic, classist, ableist, and misogynist with conservative values. Zero tolerance of homosexuality, disabled people, poor people, did something to deserve their situation. There's also online forums full of people who survived SES schools, chock full of abuse stories. And the reportings go much deeper than that.
Yeah.
But as far as I can tell, Hugh Jackman is the only Hollywood personality who has been affiliated with this. Aside from that, in public figures at least, it's just politicians.
Yeah, did he say how he got involved?
I don't think he did. I went back to read through this Oprah interview. So Oprah mentioned this affiliation to him in 2006. Oprah said, "I read that you've been studying at the School of Practical Philosophy since 1991. Hugh Jackman said, yes, the school began in London in 1938 with a group of men and women who saw the world heading for disaster, World War II. They were asking, how do we share this planet? What is natural law for humans? Capitalism is a wonderful idea, but it isn't a cure-all. So this non-denominational group of people wanted to get together, find the truth, and then apply it. Now the school is all over the world." And Oprah said, "I want to go." Hugh Jackman says the school accepts everyone. There's even a school for children. Our son Oscar attends. And Oprah said, "I'm constantly reading, trying to figure out how the world works. I've been a student of spirituality and metaphysics. I always thought it would be fascinating to raise a child to understand the principles of divine order. That is a reason to have children." Hugh said, "I totally agree. The main thing Oscar, his son, learns is how to be of service to others. At lunch, the kids all serve one another before they eat."
Okay, just really quickly, though, that one Oprah quote, "I'm constantly reading, trying to figure out how the world works. I've been a student of spirituality and metaphysics. I always thought it would be fascinating to raise a child to understand the principles of divine order." That is just most religions.
Right, but also I read something in the chat as well to quickly critique the idea that most religions are cults. The difference between a cult and a religion is a cult doesn't let you leave. A cult makes you alienated from your family. Catholicism, and I'm a Protestant saying this, you guys don't make you alienated from your family. You're free to leave Catholicism. Like, they don't have these crazy like rules and stuff
There's
like
no
that.
shunning.
My
There's no
great aunt died
shunning,
recently, and it
that
was
stuff.
half Protestant, half Catholic funeral.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for instance, but yeah, that's a distinction I want to make. That like almost all you can say they're very similar in that sense, but the difference is the cult says you can't leave. Everything in your old life is gone.
Yeah.
You're us now. All you think about is us, or a particular person that started this whole thing and that we want to give all the money to and everything.
Yeah.
You know. So
This one's weird.
You were reading
Yeah.
into
True,
it and
true.
telling me a little bit of what you found. It sounds like it's derived from Hinduism.
Yeah, so that comes into it. It looks like in the 50s. Basically, the whole thing started as the Henry George School of Philosophy, or the Henry George School of Economics. It was like a school of economic thought. It seems like.
Yeah.
And so it's a little weird to me that Jackman was like, it was about saving the world. It's like, no, it was more about fixing capitalism, like their perceived problems with capitalism.
But not in a
Yeah.
communist way?
Not in a communist way. They were, so it's, I have the basics of Henry George's philosophy here. Georgism is the belief that people should own the value they produce themselves, but that the economic value of land, including natural resources, should belong equally to all members of society. So basically, resources, communism, like product of your labor, capitalism. So it's like early progressivism, it looks like, to an extent.
Okay.
But it starts with that, which is like, okay, sure, I don't agree with the economic principles, but I don't agree with Keynes either, and he's not a cult leader.
And how does that even morph into a cult?
So that's what happened. It was the guy who started the whole thing was where was it? History. Here we go. Andrew McLaren. He was a member of Parliament. So he and his son started this organization in 1938, economic study group that expounded the economic theories of the American economist Henry George. So they started meeting in the Houses of Parliament. That's where they held their first meetings. And then after Andrew died and his son took over, it seems like that's where things started to go into metaphysics. And he talks about how, let's see, where was the quote here? Yes, the study of natural laws governing the relations between men in society. And he considered science to be a study of laws that already exist in nature, economics the study of human nature and its interaction with the natural universe. So it starts off kind of just like basic philosophy and connecting it to economics and it's like economics and sociology.
Yeah.
And then in the 50s, it looks like this, as things get weirder and weirder, they start to get into Hindu principles and some of the more like esoteric Hinduism. I didn't get that far in it.
SES seems to have far less of a public profile than something like Scientology does.
Yeah, it says in the 90s is when that started, after Leon McLaren died. I nailed that one.
That was great. Yo, that was great.
Is this number 4 today, then?
Three, I think.
3?
Please clip that, by the way.
Dude, we're
Die.
Please clip that one.
Died to harbor horns. It's like harbor
the dog
songs. That's
eating
amazing.
the cat.
I saw some controversies about SES. One of them is with these schools that they have for children.
It's weird.
It's considered common practice for teachers to end up marrying former students of theirs.
Weird.
Which is really strange and predatory. And that's not to mention any of the other allegations that have been made. And a lot of it, because Hugh Jackman is speculated to have conservative values, at least in Hollywood terms, this sounds like baseless character assassination. But his association with SES is much different than him merely being friends with a Republican mega donor, Yeah. Like, far more sketchy. And regarding his divorce from Deborah Lee Furness, an inside source claimed it's far less about the financial aspect and more about retaining control. Hugh's concern has never been about money, but rather control. He is a man with lots of secrets and doesn't want any of them exposed. Now, you would think having your ex-wife sign an NDA in your divorce proceedings would be because he's a public figure, he's an entertainer, he doesn't want her to write a memoir about their relationship. That doesn't sound like it's about their relationship. That sounds like something totally different.
Yeah. I don't know. On the one hand, like, maybe, but also, I mean, the level of exploitation that happens when celebrity relationships end is disgusting. So I could see there being, like, I'm not saying that it can't be something weird. It just, I don't want to jump there.
Who was it that was accused of like laying down behind the car so his wife couldn't leave? Is that Ben Affleck?
Oh, no, it wasn't Ben Affleck.
Wow. Nice move, dude. That's,
It was nuts,
wow.
dude.
That is like hyper toxic.
Was it? Oh,
That's like Nissan Altima toxic, dude.
But yeah,
That's-
like this stuff,
wow.
and because they're in the public eye, it almost, I don't know if that adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Either way, it's all a spectacle. Like,
Yeah.
It's not Johnny Depp. it was
Also, I went a little further in here. The whole thing seems like it's kind of universalism, SES, like the School of Economics, Science, and Philosophy, or whatever it is. Like they seem to have these like universalist fusion of Eastern and Western thought. True.
But again, just like with the Tom Cruise story, there's so much that we're just
there's
simply
definitely more
never
to
going
it.
to know, and we're not gonna.
Yeah. I think a lot of these cults are started by people who like are just trying to have a little bit of like power in their meaningless life, and then it spirals out of control.
Yeah.
And they have absolutely no idea how to handle it.
Yeah.
Some esoteric knowledge type beat.
Yeah.
One last thing I did want to get into today, and I was worried we wouldn't have enough time, is dead internet theory. A lot of people believe that the internet, as it once existed, died once and for all, somewhere around 2016, 2017. And I noticed that just a couple of weeks after Elon Musk initiated his acquisition of Twitter, which is now X, Shane Cashman, our beloved colleague, tweeted, "I believe Twitter is a limb on the corpse of the dead internet. I believe Twitter wrote a code to throttle reality and engagement. I think Twitter mass-produced bots to give the illusion of reality and engagement. I think the code and the bots were nuked once Elon bought Twitter." I disagree with that last sentence, knowing now what Twitter looks like under Elon. It's if anything, the presence of bots and engagement farming has gotten even stronger since he took over, and that has something to do with trying to make the company profitable, which prior to Elon's acquisition it wasn't. So dead internet theory is an online conspiracy theory that asserts that due to a coordinated and intentional effort, the internet now consists mainly of bot activity and automatically generated content manipulated by algorithmic curation to control the population and minimize organic human activity.
So hold on to that first part, what you just said, because we were talking about this during pre-production. I think this is kind of, yes, there's bots running rampant and robots that are appearing to be real people on the internet, but I think what dead internet theory really means is people are now acting like robots. The first part of that statement said bot activity. We call people NPCs all the time. People act like
that's
robots.
a really good point.
People act like bots.
I think the bots are getting better at pretending to be human, and humans are getting better at pretending to be bots.
We're meeting in the middle.
At a certain point, people can be so stupid that they are indistinguishable from bots, which applies to most flat earthers. Like
it all circles back.
Flat
to
Earth.
the flat
Okay, that's something that
earthers.
seems like Scientology. I think it might just be a giant inside joke.
So like some of it, yes. Some of
people
it
are
is
very
people who are
sincere.
legitimately just really stupid,
As
like
I
Austin
could
Witsit.
tell from the comments that we got, some people are very sincere.
Why flat though? Why not a triangle?
Because
why not a 5D shape?
It started off as a biblical thing. People thought the Bible said that the Earth was flat because they don't know how to read.
The firmament.
And then how
that's
thick?
right.
How thick is this flat Earth?
They have no answers for any of these questions, and their response is always, "Well, I don't need to explain it because I don't know. I just know the Earth's not round."
Right,
And it's like, okay, well, here's all of the math that proves that it's round, and they're like, "Yeah, well, what about?" And then they throw like 8 different science-y tech-sounding words at the wall and can't explain what they mean, and then they, shit their pants and run away.
I think one reason why dead internet theory started getting a lot more attention in the mainstream is the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
Yeah.
Because the media was insisting to everyone that all of the pro Johnny Depp takes you were seeing on your timeline on X was propaganda being spread by bot farms. And in fact,
the pro
Amber
Johnny
Heard,
Depp stuff.
Yeah, in fact, Amber Heard was actually the one who was being artificially suppressed, and her supporters were being artificially suppressed by bot activity.
Nonsense.
Go back on what we were talking about yesterday with Phil about it sucks being a man sometimes because men can have an opinion, but it gets you're like, no man thinks that. That must be a bot.
Right.
I did know some people who legitimately supported Amber Heard,
which is very few though. When I was in Hollywood and that was happening, and there were not a lot of people that were like, they were looking at being like, wow, look at did you see the crazy the crazy bullshit she pulled yesterday? Did you see the crazy things she did then? And the whole it just was never on her side.
It seemed like it was just a mutually abusive relationship, and
Yeah.
Like,
Organic word
I would
of
say it's
mouth
one little more
definitely
It was a
little
was
worse
not
from
in
her
Amber
side,
Heard's
definitely.
favor at
Little
the
more worse.
time.
I saw a tweet. It was like, Elon Musk must have some serious riz because he got peak Amber Heard to dress up in like an anime
Yeah.
or video game cosplay or
if
anime or video game. I'm not sure.
He started acquiring Twitter in April 2022 at the exact same time that the defamation trial was going on. And
maybe
his intention
slight
was
dig.
to get his last dig in at Amber Heard, his ex-girlfriend, by supporting her ex-husband. I don't know.
Who's the other one that he dated that's kind of weird?
I don't know.
Grimes.
Amber Heard, Grimes.
Johnny Depp, or you mean Elon?
Come on, Elon.
Okay,
Grimes.
yeah, Grimes.
Grimes.
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah,
Proponents
he has a
of
type.
dead internet theory believe that social bots were created intentionally to help manipulate algorithms and boost search results in order to manipulate consumers.
Oh my God.
Some proponents of dead internet theory accuse government agencies of using bots to manipulate public perception. The date given for the death of the internet is generally around 2016 or 2017.
Humans are able to tell though. Like there was a post that I think you shared in our group chat yesterday, and it was like those OnlyFans bot posts, and it like replied to an account talking about like a terror attack somewhere in the Middle East.
Well, it talked about it was about the Mexico mayor. That,
it was a
that
cartel.
decapitated.
Yeah, it was a
And then
cartel
the direct
assassination.
reply to that where people like these OF girls, literally actual people posting their OF.
Are they real
links.
people or are they bots?
Yeah,
These are real-
no,
I think they're bots.
This is a real strategy.
Yeah.
I know
This
some
is a
people
real
who do OnlyFans. I know some people who manage OnlyFans accounts.
Yeah.
It is a real strategy to go and just throw it at anything that's viral, even if that thing is like a natural disaster.
So it's a
Right.
human acting like a bot.
yeah, because they don't care
Kinda.
about like 95%. There's definitely some bots. Don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah, definitely
like,
are.
You know,
But not everything is
it's-
bot.
It's not the bot making a mistake. That's
Right.
the point. It's the
And
bot
it's-
doing precisely what it was intended to do because
Right.
they're only caring about the people who are so utterly desperate that they
they'll
will
do it.
pay for that.
Yeah.
How much do you guys personally buy into this theory, though, that the majority of users on
I have a
an
diff-
account like Twitter are bots?
Majority no.
Not majority,
A significant percentage yes.
have
I
a
worked in
different
marketing for a while.
understanding of like what dead internet theory is. Like I
Me too.
explained
Yeah.
earlier. What I think it's more so like us becoming dumber as a species and AI becoming smarter as a technology. And what
I
that they're
guess.
describing the phenomenon that
That's
we're
what
witnessing.
they're talking about. Maybe you can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And people's attention spans are going shorter by the minute. That's definitely
if
true.
you-
Like the 15-second news cycle,
Yeah.
not 15-minute news cycle anymore. It's
Yeah.
like it's always increased
But like
my whole life.
So like TikTok.
But the internet theory is true, though. I don't use sites anymore. We're all on platforms. People forget that we're on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, etc. Those are platforms. It's not like MySpace.com where you used to go to use a web browser to get to MySpace. Now you're actually just on their ecosystem the whole time. Everything you interact with goes through their filter every single time. And that's what dead internet theory to me originally would refer to. Is like the internet itself is dead because people don't go to actual .com websites, registries, on HTTP, like a HTTP link. They don't do that. They have no protocols, and that's all just on one site or one thing. And that's like that came in like 2015, 2016, 2017. Yeah,
I'd
that's
say-
pretty
I mean,
cool.
that timeline makes sense to me because
That's what I thought it referred
after
to.
Trump
the boss,
got
I think, is a different
elected, I
thing.
think, like after Trump got elected, there was a push from big tech to really bring down the ban hammer and surveil and censor
Maybe.
people
Yeah.
far more strongly than they did prior to 2016.
And I think
well, it
this
makes sense. You're
shed
putting
light
them
the
on
issue.
a plantation. You're putting them on a spot. You're putting them on a thing you can observe and monitor and regulate. Whereas in the internet and the .com, there's just anything. You can go to any .com website and like maybe like a server could take someone's website down. But if you had a website on its own server that represented itself and you had the actual location, you can go there.
Remember
You know what I mean?
2012 when the Mayan calendar was just predicted
Yeah.
the end
That
of
was
the
these things.
world?
That was these things.
Exactly. It's
That's what I
not
think.
the social media platforms there itself. It's not any one political event that happened. It's when smartphones became ubiquitous that even homeless people can
Yeah.
have a smartphone in their pocket connected to these apps, these social media websites, the internet.
Yeah.
When that became the norm, when the average Joe walk in, dude, you'd be surprised to find someone without a smartphone walking down any street in this
Well,
country.
you really can't even function without one.
Yeah.
It's built into
No, it's
so many.
shocking. If someone shows up to like an after work function and I'm like, "Hey, do you have your phone on you?" Like, "No, I left it at home." I'd be like, "What?"
I do that.
I'd be like, "What? What do you mean?"
That's
I'm gonna come to
probably
your house and just freak you out. And not
very
have a phone.
healthy.
I have a
Yeah.
phone, yeah.
But this
You
has
can't
been
track me, bro.
Allegedly, dead internet has been developing for far longer
Oh,
than
yeah.
we realize. And I am not one to just heap praise on the Young Turks, but back in 2011, the Young Turks published a video called Software Writes News Articles. Now, in 2024, when you hear software writes news articles, we're like, yeah,
sure.
What about it?
Oh,
But
that was being going.
back in
BuzzFeed was doing that.
2011, you would hear that and be shocked that a robot would be capable of writing convincingly human-written articles. And in this example they gave, it was sports articles. They said a startup known as Narrative Science designed a program that writes human-like stories. Right now it's used for sports articles, but will it eventually be used to write news and politics? Cenk and Anna Kasparian discuss on the Young Turks. So that was back in 2011, where that was a very shocking revelation to people. Now it's extremely commonplace, and we might as well assume it's written by a bot before we find out otherwise.
We make jokes when boomers get fooled by AI photos. We're like, obviously it's AI.
But eventually we will be fooled. And there was just recently, I think earlier this year.
Like this week, there was a big one. With a fake photo from a little girl holding a puppy. It fooled millennials.
Right, yeah, it's getting better. But I mean, earlier this year, there was this big scandal with Sports Illustrated because people found out that Sports Illustrated was publishing articles written by fake authors who were fully AI generated people.
Sports media has gone through quite the shakeup over the last year or two. Like,
hey, same with every media.
Like established, that's true, media in general. But like, and then I think this is partially a glimpse of what's to come with AI. It's because certain just updating, like, hey, here's what's on our plate today, like messages like that. Like that used to be a person that wrote that.
We got a 20 from VWit. I'd start walking your way, you'd start walking mine. We'd meet in the middle, neath that old Georgia pine. Extra 20 chat if you can actually sing that, Mary. I can't, and I won't, even if I could. But I wanted to get more into Narrative Science, this startup that they were referencing.
Love
because
that name.
Narrative Science was invested in by the Central Intelligence Agency. Like, literally the CIA was one of the major investors in Narrative Science when it was founded in 2010. And this startup also had In-Q-Tel, something called In-Q-Tel, as an investor, which is a nonprofit venture capital firm based in Arlington, Virginia. It invests in high-tech companies to keep the Central Intelligence Agency and other intelligence agencies equipped with the latest information technology in support of U.S. intelligence capabilities.
That makes perfect sense.
So In-Q-Tel is another CIA.
It's one of these companies. Like, it's like I have a couple friends in the Arlington area, and it's like you ask where they work, and I work for, like, we do satellites and stuff. It's like, I know who you work for. I get what you're saying.
Well, like
this startup that the Young Turks were talking about back in 2011 was essentially a software owned by the CIA.
Imagine what they're doing
in
now.
order to create narratives and write news articles. They started out small. Imagine where it is 15 years later as we're standing now.
Look at Apple.
They started these things with sports because of the stats too. There's so many sports statistics that are so easily accessible.
And you don't need an opinion. It's just fact.
But also,
you can write you can literally just write a thing in, which will input the stats, scrubbing it from an Excel sheet, no problem. That's probably what they're doing, and then it's just a rudimentary text-to-speech thing. I can see that happening in 2011.
They picked something where they could tweak the actual verbiage used first before they had to get it to be accurate.
Yeah,
exactly. But they were reading through some of the articles in that video back in 2011, and it was stylized. It was in a very particular voice.
Yeah, so a lot of what they would do at the time too was they would still have an editor who would go through it, and the editor would like review it to make sure it flowed properly. But it did not take long for things to go from, this has to be edited by a human being to this is nearly indistinguishable from an average person's writing.
That's where we're at now with ChatGPT.
I think we're with music as well. Like, music is like that right now too. Like, the AI stuff is like, it makes kind of okay stuff, but on a technical aspect for people that the average person's gonna like it, you gotta take it and chop it and configure it correctly, and then it's like, okay, this is good now. Now you can actually release it.
In 2011, that's when the private sector got usable AI tools. 2022. That's when the general public, the normies, got usable AI tools. It's been around. And I guarantee the CIA has been using it this whole time.
Oh, yeah. I can say I did know some people back, this was not that long ago, probably 2018, who they were college students. They had a part-time job writing like gaming articles and listicles and things like that. They would not play the game. they would just go read a review of the game from IGN and then reword things for SEO content and go from there. Like, so it
Sounds like journalism.
When you look at like what was being done, AI was not the cheaper or more effective way to do it just 6 years ago.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
in just 6 years, we've gotten to the point where
Virginia, why it makes completely sense is Virginia's kind of considered the server capital of the country, if not
That
the
too.
world.
Yeah.
And so and what do you need to train AI models is a ton of server space.
Yep.
Right. There's like a ton of electricity, and so it makes sense that they'd headquarters or they'd park it in Virginia because it's all of Nova. It's just data
It's
farm
not that far away
after
from where we
data
are.
farm after data farm. But like to put like more of a less doom pill on this, I like to think that hey, the CIA, they went to Trump and Kamala. They're like, okay, here's the plan for the 2024 election. Trump, you don't get any written speeches. You're off the cuff the whole time. Just make it up as you go. Kamala, you're only getting AI speeches. And we're just gonna see what happens. We're just gonna see what happens. We're gonna see how it all plays out, and it's another side.
Kamala might as well be an AI.
Someone should analyze her speech and see if the AI, they've
Those don't
seen
even work.
AIs that
Yeah.
will use more words than everyone. They should analyze her speech and see if she's been using words that an AI would use a lot more often. They can prove that she's just been saying.
No, but professors are using these tools, and they're using AI tools to detect AI written essays.
Yeah.
And you see stories now popping with I spent 3 weeks straight writing this paper. It is 99.9% me, and I get flagged as 80% AI.
The
Yep.
detections
It doesn't
are
work.
completely ineffective.
No.
And that's why students are going to continue getting away with
and,
Right.
stealthily cheating.
Well, now the one kid that worked his ass off that just got a failing grade because they accused of it being AI, you think he's ever going to work that hard again on a
No.
paper?
No, definitely
No.
not. I would
exactly,
no.
yeah.
I would never do that.
Okay, we have got to get to super chats or else we're not going to get through them all. Put a girl on said a little less 16 candles, Aidan. Fall Out Boy.
oh yeah, that is a good song.
It is. Jamesy Boy said nowadays people that don't like something just put toxic input thing here. It's everywhere. Sheesh. Yeah, you're right. Toxic is a word that should probably be retired at this point. Shane H. Wilder said, "Oh hi, Serge."
What's up?
Greg Duvier said Serge is the better producer simply because he follows me on X. Kellen, you need to go follow Greg Duvier.
Greg Duvier?
Yeah, not
Why?
that John Stewart said, I was hoping to enjoy some milk and cigarettes today, maybe tomorrow. I was very clear that Brett was going to be back on Thursday, not Wednesday. But hold your horses.
It feels like a Thursday, though.
Does it? You said it feels like a Friday.
It also
Doesn't
feels like
feel
a Friday.
like a Wednesday.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Family Guy deep cut for you.
Yeah.
Jamesy Boy 1066
really deep
said,
cut.
cool bandana, Serge.
Thanks. Yeah, I stopped wearing. I had to stop wearing beanies because Tim wears beanies, and then I couldn't wear bandanas because Carter wears bandanas. So I'm reclaiming hairstyles I already previously had.
You should wear a bonnet. That's new. No one does that.
That was way out of left field. Or that was a.
No one does that around here.
Maybe
Yeah.
a do-rag?
Oh yeah.
Could you wear a do-rag?
Yeah, telling me to
I don't
wear
know
a
if you
bonnet
should wear a
is,
do-rag.
crazy, dude.
that-
I'm the African
is that
American
gonna get
boy
you
here, and you're like, you should
canceled?
wear a bonnet. It's like, whoa.
I think that might get him in trouble.
chill,
Yeah.
Calm down.
Shane H. Wilder said sex scenes are always uncomfortable regardless of if you are watching a show alone or with others. They never move the plot. We need a skip button.
Yeah, especially with your parents when you were younger and you had to. Oh, that's the worst experience of just ever. I hated that.
Yeah, I don't really know who's the audience for that.
Me either.
Because there's literally porn on the internet. You
Yeah.
know, if that's what you want to see, it's
Yeah.
available. Just don't put it on Netflix.
What is it? Rule something that if it exists, someone's made a sexual version of it.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
What rule it is? Whatever. Yeah.
V Wit said, I am the few that watched Joker 2. I agree with Mary. Thank you. Francisco Sanchez Jr. said, Mary, Mary, quite contrary, making Joker 2 sound scary. And it wasn't scary. It was just boring and stupid.
They should have made a horror movie instead of a musical. I would have watched that.
Yeah,
Joker
well, they
horror
did.
film.
Actually,
The
I
first
saw
one
It kind of is a
someone
horror
say,
film as it
Psychological
is.
thriller.
Like,
Yeah.
Jared Leto must be so happy right now that he is now the
Yeah.
second worst portrayal of the Joker instead of Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
Because I was rewatching some of those scenes
crazy.
yesterday, and
That's
like
crazy, dude.
he's in the scene in the nightclub being like the pimp Joker, right? And he's like, oh, you don't want no beef? You don't want no beef? And I'm like, this script is terrible, but Jared Leto committed.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
he method
was
acted that.
into it.
He, like, the other actors complained about how much he was method acting because he
Yeah.
was just being weird. Like, he was just being insane.
And like Harley is walking over to them in that scene, and he's like, "Oh, the fire of my loins, the itch in my crotch." Like he was like passionate about this role.
Dude, this is weird. I don't know
They
if
should
anyone's
have-
Jared
noticed.
Leto's a great
His
actor.
whole heart and soul was in that
They
performance.
should have him do like a World War II performance
Oh, God. As
maybe
as
not.
him? As the guy?
as
Jared Leto as?
I don't know. They'll make up some kind of.
That would go horribly.
I don't know why they shaved his eyebrows off though.
I think he did.
Why was that necessary?
I think it was just to make
Probably
it
wanted
more
to.
weird. I mean, to be fair to Jared Leto, how do you follow Heath Ledger? Heath
Yeah,
Ledger's
it's
Joker was...
tough.
You got to be like kind of Jared Leto delusional to just be like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can do it.
A lot of people wanted like one of the
I got it.
Culkin
You know what I mean?
brothers.
Yeah, he just
That would have been
committed,
good.
dude.
I think one of the Culkins would do a great job as
Kieran
Joker.
Culkin maybe.
Yeah,
I think the Culkins are overrated.
Really?
I
think-
like
yeah.
Kieran a lot.
I don't mind them, but the people are fawning over the Culkins and their performances.
I always forget who the third one is.
Kieran, Macaulay, and yeah, me
Yeah, the
too.
third one.
There's like 5 Baldwins.
There are a
Yeah,
ton.
there are so many.
and Skarsgård.
Yeah, Skarsgårds.
Corey Anderson said, but without intimate scenes, how would we know Florence Pugh has unsightly boobs? They can be a public service.
Does she?
Does she?
She had shown her boobs before, actually, on a red carpet.
Yeah, that's
so.
me, and I don't. She's pretty.
She
So you,
seems like
that was your favorite part of Oppenheimer, is what you're
I
trying to
actually
say?
didn't watch. I turned off Oppenheimer like halfway through. So I
My
didn't
girlfriend
see
did
that
fall
part.
asleep. I think it was partially the boozy brunch we did beforehand because we saw Barbie first, like a bunch of utter maniacs. I did not
double feature.
I did not approve of this plan. I wanted to see
Barbenheimer.
Oppenheimer first and then do brunch and then Barbie.
Yeah, definitely.
I lost that vote 3-1.
That's unfortunate.
Everybody agreed I was right in the end.
You were objectively correct, yeah. Buzzard said, yeah, they claim to offer superiority over humanity while brainwashing their subjects to tear themselves apart for power. Think Hereditary and The Master.
I did not like Hereditary.
I watched Hereditary, but I don't see the connection.
What was the comment again?
It's about Scientology. They claim to offer superiority over humanity.
Yeah,
while
YouTube's going. I'm trying to
brainwashing.
pull it up over here. YouTube's going through it. I
Yeah.
can't even see them.
Dude, it's been doing that yesterday as well for us.
You
So,
know-
on
you know-
IRL. It's
There's
really
not to-
some
it's
effery
hitting the
going
fan.
on right now.
like, not to derail completely, but like a week and a half ago, our podcast playlist disappeared. It
Yeah.
just like YouTube deleted it, but then it
Weird.
reappeared one
Dude,
day.
it's been going.
YouTube's
insane.
been getting
No, they're doing
odd
some
lately.
major updates
Yeah.
without
So on the
telling
back end.
anyone.
It's
Right.
so frustrating.
Yeah.
It happens like twice a year.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those.
It must be
periods
for the.
again.
So they're launching. If Chad, if you guys didn't know, starting on the 15th, there's going to be
3-minute shorts.
3-minute shorts.
Yep. If
So-
you haven't got already, I was talking about it last night. I've already got them pushed to my phone, having like the short form content. When I looked through it, I'm like, this is really long short video. So I realized how long it was.
must-
And it's like a 3 or 4 or 5 minute video inside a vertical format.
I know you listen to shorts a lot, so maybe there's like select users that are almost to beta test it.
Yeah, maybe, probably is what
They
what it
definitely
is.
have some beta testing going on right now.
Is
Yeah.
it 60 seconds now?
It's currently 60.
9. You have to be
Yeah.
under 60.
Have to
Yeah.
be right under 60.
Which is so frustrating because in order to be monetized on TikTok and Instagram, it has to be over 60.
Really?
Yeah.
So you some people that are kind of pushing between the two things.
What's the
or
upper
doing one
limit of
video and then
Instagram,
cutting
though?
it to the other one.
Instagram, I'm not sure that they
know.
really have one
I don't think
anymore.
Reels
I've
has-
seen long Instagram
I have like
reels.
a 15-minute reel personally. So
Really?
TikTok
Yeah.
TikTok went up to like 10 minutes, and now I think it's even longer than that too.
yeah.
They're like slowly trying to become YouTube, but it's not going to work.
they're both trying to become each other, and then in doing that, they're diffusing what both of them actually are with
Yeah.
their brand, and it's making it really weird. Like, where am I going to go to find like the hottest dance video trend so I can go copy and
They're not
remix
even
these
doing
videos?
that
Like,
anymore, man. You know,
Oh,
we complained.
my bad.
We
I don't know.
complained about the TikTok dances that went viral and we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's so much worse.
Well, Dixie
now.
D'Amelio is like gone now. Like, what is she doing?
All of them, all those
Yeah, they're
girls
all
that got
gone.
popular like during COVID for doing dances.
Yeah.
I mean they're not like broke. Like they're all doing their own thing, but they're out of the public eye now. You know.
Yeah, good on
Except
them.
Addison Rae. She's in her pop star era.
She's trying.
She's
True,
trying.
true.
Big Dave sent us 99 cents without a message. Thank
Dude,
you.
Big Dave always does that. He's the man.
Silent. Yeah, strong when silent. The White Trash Panda said L. Ron Hubbard literally was a sci-fi author. Battlefield
Correct.
Earth was his most famous work outside Scientology.
Have you guys seen that film, by the way?
No.
No.
You guys should watch it. It's worth the watch.
Is it
It's
good?
Wild. One of Travolta's best works.
So
Wild.
bad it's good, maybe?
No, I mean I'm not a hate watcher. I watch it religiously.
Okay.
It's a beautiful film.
Gordon Shumway said Scientology ropes you in as being a self-help group. The first book, Dianetics, teaches you how to focus and discipline. When it works, they hook you in.
Yeah.
Which
There's a
is
lot
so
of
bizarre
information about
because
it.
you can work on self-help and self-improvement without like joining a cult. There are
Mm-hmm.
whole other books and like YouTube channels dedicated to that. V Wit said, I hate all of this. Can we reboot the world yet?
I hear you, bro.
Rhaegar Targaryen said, are you sure it's not pronounced Miss Cabbage?
Miss Cabbage.
I don't think it's David Miscavige, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I'd take it.
Joker Folia Do is not better than Electric Boogaloo 2 said, sex scene in Joker 2 is a joke. Where's his endurance?
How is it
I'm
really
honestly,
short?
it was short,
Isn't
and
that the
I'm just
joke?
glad
like
that
the joke.
it didn't last any longer because I didn't want to watch that shit.
I mean,
Shane H.
listen, like
Wilder-
I don't know how short we're talking. Like 3 minutes is a pretty long time in my opinion.
I said I see 8 seconds on that buzzer, man. That's
We saw about 10
honestly-
seconds.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you know that's
2
reasonable.
seconds over the buzzer. That's a
That's
lot.
more than a lot of people
That's a
can
lot.
handle, to be realistic.
Okay, we're not doing this. Shane H. Wilder said the E-meter is made out of toucans. These poor birds. Oh, toucans. Never mind. To quote Meatloaf, I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that. Kellen sent her Mary in the 4 box, and then he said, thank you, Kellen. That's better. Did you fix it for him? Okay.
I did. Yeah, something got bumped. I think your camera got bumped.
Probably Aidan.
I probably
aggressively kicking
accidentally booted it while
Sorry.
moving my legs
It's all
around.
right. We fixed it.
Omega Red fan said Jared Leto mind freak is back. Oh my. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Isn't that the magician mind freak?
Oh.
I have no idea.
Chris Angel.
Chris Angel.
That's my boy, dude. My freak, dude. That's my dog, dude.
Is he the one that got exposed for being like totally fake, like in a really aggressive way?
Wait, magic's
know.
not real?
There was like somebody who got exposed really hard in the magic industry, and I can't remember who
The
it
magic
was.
industry?
Probably not. David.
I think all of them
It's
get
probably
exposed
not
at some
David
point.
Blaine.
It wasn't.
So it's
I don't
most
mean
likely-
exposed for like faking it. I mean there was some other kind of exposure for like I don't remember what exactly it was. Just
But not Magic the Gathering. You mean like actual magic?
Yeah.
yeah, like magicians, because back in the
Okay.
2000s,
Do they
you had
have-
a lot of like hugely
Yeah.
popular magicians out there, like Chris
when-
Angel.
Because
Right, right.
when DVDs and CDs started becoming like commonplace, it's like you could just do
Yeah.
a 30-minute magic show and then people would buy it. Like,
Yeah.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah, true.
Do you remember that clip of a Bobby Althoff interview where she's interviewing this musician and she's like,
no.
"So you're a
Oh,
musician?"
yes.
She's
Yeah, I love that one.
like, "Well, I am a magician.
Whatever.
No, I do music."
So
funny.
a magician.
It has to have been.
I don't know what this magician
Fake, right?
thing is.
I
that
don't
that
know.
has to have been.
I don't know. If it is
scripted.
fake, if it's fake, she's really good at committing to the bit, and she started acting. because
That's
that
true. She was
that's
acting
incredibly
really
good.
well for that.
I don't think it's fake.
Yeah, maybe
Her
not.
expressions on her face.
She looked genuinely offended.
legit.
Yeah.
Bobby Altoff is another
was
one
hurt.
that disappeared just as fast as she
Of course,
appeared.
of course.
Well, she like started
she
a
got the bag
podcast,
and got out.
left her husband, may or may not have slept with Drake.
Yeah.
Like,
And others. And now all she does is kind of like go out to clubs and binge drink.
Yeah, she did a show.
She
in
got the life
in
she
a
wanted.
bed with Drake, right? That was the podcast. They were
While
in bed.
married.
while married.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Well, she got
on
right
her
before
daughter's
she did divorce.
birthday.
Yeah.
She missed her daughter's birthday party
Dude, they
to
don't
get
like us,
in a
fam.
hotel bed
we
with
get-
Drake.
They
Can
are
we get
not
her
like
ex-
us, fam. Remember that.
Can we
They
get
not
her
like us.
ex-husband on the show for a tell-all?
That'd be
would
kind of
love
sick.
That'd be great.
The poor
Oh,
I'm
dude.
sure
I wanna
he's
see if we
had
get an
other
IRL.
people asking.
That'd be
I know.
dope.
I'm sure he's declined
Wait,
other
okay, here we go.
offers.
Name and Vane said what I was trying to say. Straight editing video to make it look like an illusion is pretty bad compared to fooling real people and just catching it on camera. That's what I was going for.
So he was editing
Like,
his tricks?
Yeah,
in
the
post?
produced videos were edited in post to
Like
make it.
TikTok magicians are just
Wait, Mind Freak was
really
fake?
good at editing in Adobe. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, you're just psyching me out here. I thought you were like,
Wait, this is the Mind Freak.
he's saying that Chris Angel's fake, dude. Like that's.
I didn't
like,
say Chris Angel.
Oh, okay. Just making sure, because Mind Freak is 100% real. I'm pretty sure it says so in like the after the fit. That says this is all stunts were extreme.
I'm never gonna hear the end of this. This is gonna follow me. I'm gonna be like the cylinder guy.
Serenko Productions said, if something is a cult, does that make it bad?
I saw that earlier. It's a good question.
Colloquially,
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Academically, no.
Sure.
No.
Shane H. Wilder said Catholicism isn't a cult. You have free will and are welcome to leave if you want to. We also don't hide how the church works from the public.
True.
That's true.
Huh.
True.
But there is
I want to see what's in those archives.
There is a shunning practice for Mormons, right?
There is, yeah.
Very, very, very intense one, which I've been personally witness to on at least 2 separate occasions, which was like very intense.
I think they claim it's more of the fundamentalist sects
But it's
that
not.
do it, but it's I think it's pretty much all
universal.
of them, right?
I would say it's most of them.
You know-
It's even baked into BYU's code of conduct if you know anything about BYU. And again, I have no hate to my LDS brethren. And sisters, no hate, but
Do you have a lot of LDS brethren?
I lived in Salt Lake for 10 years. So I know
okay,
a lot of
that'll
people,
do it.
I grew up with a lot of Mormons too
Okay.
out here.
They're different though. They're different than the Zion. The Zion Mormons are different. Just like they say, the Zionist Jews are different than all the other Jews. The same thing with Mormons.
Well, do you know
who live
the,
in Salt Lake are different than the Mormons
The
outside
big
the rest of the
castle,
world.
the big giant white.
temple.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's a temple. It's a
Yeah,
Mormon
they
temple.
have a lot of temples like that. That's
Yeah.
just one, boy. They
The
got
Mormons,
all over the place.
the Mormons made my life so much more miserable by building all those temples so fast because you
Yeah.
got a bunch of really stupid people on the internet who are like, "Oh no, it was definitely there beforehand. We inherited America from the Tartarians."
Come on, man.
Like, and it's like, no, the
Tartarians
Mormons were
real,
just
guys.
really intense about building temples. They did it really
They
fast.
throw them in like a week.
Like everybody forgets that Brigham Young literally led like thousands of people through the Wasatch Mountains into the Salt Lake area and then just started a city. It's not like it was a trickle of settlers.
Well, he started the city because he was going to die of
Yeah.
dysentery, but that's
Since you were
just
there
facts and history. But
in Salt Lake City for a long time, did they ever try to convince you to join?
the craziest part is like they literally have people that have the extreme. It's such an unfortunate thing to be assigned your missionary in Salt Lake City Valley or like in Salt Lake City area or like the Utah Valley where you're like going around to like an 80% population being like, hey, have you heard of the Church of Latter-day Saints? Like it's just like, dude, I've actually
You were assigned a missionary.
Yeah, they get chosen to go to a mission with 2 missionaries all over the world.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you get assigned to go to Salt Lake Valley, which they do, they do come to your house and tell you everyone that is in Salt Lake's like, we've heard about it, we know, and pretty much all they do is just ride their bikes around Salt Lake.
When I first it was probably a week living on my own for the first time. It must have been 18, 19.
They'll get you.
And I was alone, and I heard a knock at the door, and I'm like, who the hell is that? And it looks
Greetings,
like
brother.
the girls from The Shining when I opened the front door, and they were
They were actual
asking me
brother.
about LDS. Yeah.
Well, I just a couple of months ago had a couple of Mormon missionaries come to my door, and I saw them coming down the street, so I was prepared. I was ready, and I wanted to have a discussion.
You
So,
just open right as they step. Hey.
hi, I'm Catholic. Want to talk?
Yeah.
And
They oftentimes do.
They
They'll
were
follow
very
through.
nice young boys. I asked them, where they were like from before they got their assignment, how much longer they had left on their mission and stuff like that. They seemed pretty cool. I gave them some sparkling waters because they're not allowed to drink coffee.
Correct.
Brutal.
But yeah, it was a good discussion. I gave them a catechism. They gave me a Book of Mormon, and I got rid of it. But I never
Nice.
heard from them ever after
Yeah,
that.
you got blacklisted.
I
or
thought
something.
thought maybe I got blacklisted, but I thought they're supposed to return
No,
if you seemed open to it. They're supposed to come back. I don't know.
Not if you're like religious, then they're like, oh,
Then
there's no
it's-
saving you. There's
it's
no
a
hope.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no hope. They'll blacklist you in a heartbeat. But that's what I know.
Kellen, the official data said, then when is the milk cult starting, Mattis?
It sounds wrong.
Excuse me?
Raw milk, probably something.
No, there's just I think it started with a Wendigo milk thing like 3 years ago. I don't even remember where milk came from.
Can you milk a Wendigo?
That was what people were asking. I
you
made
milk
a
a
video about
Bigfoot?
like, hey, this creature from Native American folklore is a rotting cannibal corpse living thing right
Cannibal
here, and it
corpse.
likes to eat people. And the first question everyone's asking, they're like, can I fuck it? Like,
yeah, of course. That's
Why?
the internet, dude. That's the internet.
One guy keeps us updated every week on his lesbian Windowsy bodyguards. I mean,
Okay.
thanks, Gomb.
I never wanted to
That's
hear
crazy.
that string of syllables.
Well, you think I
like,
did?
Yeah, totally. I hear you, man.
Can you milk a Bigfoot? Is that a thing?
I mean, in the same way you could milk a person, I guess.
Bigfoot's a man.
No,
Do that.
Bigfoot is
is
a
a man.
species.
Okay. Anyway, Quite Blackpilled said, Mary, check out Megyn Kelly's Harris, Call Her Daddy interview take, some real fire and
Interesting.
brimstone stuff. You'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
True tragedy for women if this stammering doofus becomes president.
I hear you.
Alex Cooper is more articulate than Kamala Harris. Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's so. I totally
that's a good
believe
point.
that, though. I totally believe
Alex
that.
Cooper is better at expressing her thoughts and opinions than Kamala Harris.
I've never heard her speak, but I can totally believe that.
And
from only hearing Kamala
granted,
Harris
all of
speak.
her opinions are about sex and feminism, basically, but still, like,
Yeah.
there's something to be said for that.
We have a 20.
Compared to
what's
a
up?
lawyer, a DA.
We have a
Oh.
20.
India.
Aidan Thornberry said, "The day we talk about Scientology is the day our cult in Wyoming is bigger than it anyway."
Aiden, you're supposed to be
Also,
preventing it from becoming a cult.
It's Miss Cavage, not Miss Cavige,
Miss Cabbage, just how I've heard it.
But-
I don't know.
That's my co-host.
but not Miss Cabbage.
I think it's Miss Cabbage.
I've heard you say Miss Cabbage, so I say that.
We would love to have you on, Aiden.
Yeah, I'll bring him down next
It'll
time.
happen someday.
Nice.
Shane H. Wilder said they've made it so you can't function in the real world without a smartphone. Go to a restaurant and there's a QR code on the table for the menu.
Yep.
I assume if you tell them you don't have a smartphone, they have to give you an actual
They
menu.
do, yeah. They keep paper
like-
menus.
They
like-
usually will, but if it's like a new age restaurant that doesn't have them and they don't have
What
them,
are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do?
So
Get out of
dumb.
cities, man.
go eat somewhere else.
Yeah, that's
Use
cities, man.
capitalism. Vote with your wallet, guys. Come on.
They do
Or
that. They
just
started pushing
dine
that
and
stuff.
dash, maybe?
True, yeah. They started
might
pushing
work,
all
yeah.
that stuff in LA hardcore in the pandemic, and everything was a QR code in your phone. Literally everything.
I hated
but-
that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some restaurants are
Made everything
they love
worse.
it. They're like, hey, we don't have to print new
'cause it
menus
saves
every month.
slightly more money, slightly less. Anything to save costs in the restaurant industry is gonna be something that they want. 100%.
Shane H. Wilder said, only something A24 bros liked Hereditary. I completely agree. It was
A24
awful.
bros,
It
that's a thing.
It wasn't
Yeah.
like special. I don't think it was like worse than any of the other horror stuff coming out these days. I wouldn't say it was special though. It was just a horror movie.
I think it was cursed.
I did not like Hereditary. I did not like The Witch.
Oh, The Witch was good.
We had a conversation about this on one of our shows recently, where it was basically like A24 can make good movies. They just absolutely suck at making horror movies, and like because they're just
I
boring.
thought that was their bag.
Well, that's a,
No, that's all the A24 movies people know are A24 movies.
But yeah,
they made a lot more movies.
the slow burn horror is like in right now.
Yeah, but,
that's why
like,
you see like
happens.
Haunting of Hill House is so popular.
That was a good one though.
Haunting of Bly Manor. What's the new one?
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass was great.
Slow burn horror is definitely in right now, and they're just capitalizing on that.
Yeah, but
I
like
know
that's the thing
they-
is something has to happen.
A24 produced The Bling Ring.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty
We looked up.
random.
I was surprised by some of the movies that they've made.
Evan Gallis said, just tuning in, apparently Trump was on Andrew Schultz's show. Still got
That's
to
correct.
catch up on that.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I
That's
was
big.
surprised to see that.
Yeah, I have not seen it. I saw that it had happened. Theo Vaughn is actually the real leading political comedian, I think, though, at this point.
He's a
'Cause
regular guy.
And yeah,
Wait,
and
did
he's had
Theo
the-
Vaughn get an appearance with Trump?
with Trump like a
while ago.
6
Oh.
months ago. Like no.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
like,
yeah, I forgot
60
about
days,
that.
like
I
3
forgot
months
about
ago.
that.
Theo Vaughn's like the descendant of Polish royalty or something crazy like that.
I
Like
thought he said that
he's
was,
the
like,
black sheep.
overblown.
Yeah, his family is like the
last
black
name is,
sheep
like-
of the family. Like
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
have money from this or anything. It's not like he's a nepo baby. It's just like
They were trying to use that to discredit him.
He definitely. It seems like he maybe fibbed a little bit about his.
He's aristocratic.
about his upbringing, but that's the thing is like he's a comedian.
Yeah, right. That's his job.
He's doing a bit like
Yeah.
if you believe everything a comedian tells you, I have a bridge to sell you.
yeah, true.
Like
is it the Brooklyn Bridge? Because I'll buy it.
Yeah,
I'm down.
it is,
Here we
actually.
are.
John Black said Thornberry is a magician. He made a plane disappear. Is this true?
No, it's we covered the MH370 disappearance around this time last year, actually, and one of the parts of our part 2 on that series, we had 2 parts. Towards the end of part 2, we showed how that viral video Ashton Forbes was putting out about, oh my God, look, it's this secret government released footage of the plane disappearing into a wormhole. Aidan went
yeah.
through and he just debunked it because it was an asset from the 90s that was
Yeah.
color shifted in Adobe Premiere. It probably wasn't even After Effects. It was
Nice.
just like, and everybody was like, well, we didn't have computers that powerful in 2014. It's like, yes, we did, guys.
Yeah, we did.
This was not difficult, and the video is in like 480p.
Is this enough money for that bridge you were?
Yes,
Yeah.
actually. And it's real money, right?
Yes, it's all real money.
Okay,
Just make
okay,
sure everyone
cool.
sees
Real
it
money
on
for
the
real
screen.
bridge.
All real money.
The
Bridge.
plane crashed.
Brooklyn Bridge.
Right, like the plane crashed.
So, God, I hate being sick.
Sorry. If you don't have it in you, it's okay.
Well, that's the thing. The official story on MH370 is that the pilot committed a mass murder-suicide because he was mad about the Malaysian government. So he flew up, he turned around, cut off the comms, like depressurized the cabin or something like that, and then flew the plane due south.
Shut up back there.
Until it ran out of oxygen.
Yeah.
Or until it ran out of fuel and then it crashed into the Indian Ocean.
You're running out of oxygen right now.
So the problem with that is the whole motive for the story makes zero sense.
It's really spurious.
Like the guy was not politically extremist. He did what he did that was considered extreme in Malaysia is what we do in America on Twitter every day.
Right.
Where he was like, this president's a stupid pants.
Maybe he was groomed into it by their government.
Well, in Singapore and in Malaysia, they take these things extremely serious because they have a lot of different religious groups in these countries. They don't want all the religious groups to have a boogaloo, which they've already done in the past. It happened many times. They've pressed and say like, let's just not do this. Yeah. Let's just not do it, and they make it really illegal. And then some people don't like that, which I don't know if I believe it either. I lived in Singapore in high school, so I had a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I know a lot about the MH370 story, but
some people said, oh well, his wife was divorcing him, and he was distraught and decided to do that.
Take a look at that.
I like what?
It's nothing. Sorry.
Okay.
Go on.
Yeah, but people are like, oh well, he was getting divorced. He was distraught about. He was the one divorcing his wife because she wouldn't let him have a second wife. Like.
Nice.
That's not a reason to do what he did. Other people are like, oh, well, there were a bunch of employees of a microprocessor company on the plane. It's like they were 20 people who were just rank and file scientists who were on a routine trip there and back to China for an American company that had a base in Australia. That's all it was. Nobody with any special patents, nothing crazy like that. What I think happened, based on what I've seen and based on the research I did, was that if you look at the actual report on it, there was a very unstably put together shipment of lithium-ion batteries in the cargo hold.
Nice. We all know how lithium-ion batteries are
Oh.
If one lithium-ion battery catches fire
they're all going
and
up.
there's no insulation, they all go up like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if that hit the cargo hold, it's not an explosion. It's a fire.
Yeah.
If it hit the cargo hold,
it would just burn.
You wouldn't know until it already took out all of your comm systems until it like shut down some of your power. I think it was a Boeing, so I think there was probably a manual backup flight system as well that could have kept it in the air for a little while.
What? Brett's on a flight right now, so I just don't want to be putting out any negative energy.
Yeah,
don't bring your lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah. And then the really interesting thing happened over the next 4 years, by the way, for everybody that calls me crazy over this, is, just slowly, quietly, every civil aviation authority in the world banned shipments of lithium-ion batteries on passenger jets.
Yep,
there had been multiple lithium-ion battery fire crashes in history. They were all cargo planes with less than 4 casualties.
Why wouldn't that just be the official story that they told to the public?
Because it's embarrassing as hell.
Right. Because then they had passengers on you were doing this with passengers on the plane.
You'd rather that people think someone got sucked into a wormhole?
No, that wasn't the government explanation.
That had nothing to do with that. They were like, take that story.
He was a political extremist.
No, the government explanation was the thing that they felt made the most sense. Like, Muslims like to fly planes into things.
Yeah.
Incompetence, malice.
He was like, he probably hated the government and wanted to cause an incident with China.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Evan Gallis, it's not funny that people died.
No, it's not.
It's just a funny backstory. Evan Gallis said, somehow every time the Jehovah Witnesses come to the door, I'm always in my underwear. Do you come to the door anyway? Just to say hello?
Doing the Lord's work, man.
Shane H. Wilder said, I had some Mormons come by last year. I invited them in. They took 2 steps, saw all the Catholic iconography, and noped the F out, LOL. See, they know what they're getting into. If they can't convince you, they're going to spend their time elsewhere.
Objectively, though, I think it's not a bad practice because it teaches young people how to talk to strangers. Like that's a skill.
That's a plus.
It's a skill. Fear of public speaking has always been a problem, and now it's bigger than ever because everyone's digital.
They're getting used to actual confrontation with people
Interaction.
as well.
Yeah, true. But I mean,
it'd be nice if they could do that without proselytizing Mormonism.
Right. The proselytization reinforces the in-group, out-group, though. Unfortunately, it makes them go out to people that are going to be most of the time, especially if you're doing it in certain areas where people have definitely heard about the religion, to be them like, okay, well, I am being called a Mormon, I am Mormon. It reinforces it's us versus them. It's us to another person. So I see what you're saying, but I mean that's just like a byproduct, man. I think that's just like that happened. Oh yeah, we can add that as a positive on the marketing. You know what I mean? But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Corey Anderson said Anna Kasparian is a hot and coming around. Yeah, I saw that she did an interview with Gillian Anderson the other day
she's
saying
taking
that
accountability.
she hates wokeism.
Well, okay, and it didn't start there. It started there like maybe a year and a half ago, where she just like disagrees with some things Democrats are doing, and everyone comes for her throat. And it's like, you pushed her away. Good job, guys.
Yep.
It's the meme of the two people who are standing next to each other, and then the person on the left is like over here, and then over here, and they're like, you're an extremist.
She's a great example of it.
She even moved right.
She didn't.
Everybody else left her behind. V. Witt said, hi, you ex-Mormon fan here. Serge is right on a lot. We call them Utah Mormons, although Zionist isn't wrong, but more associated with Zejus.
I know, that was... I was doing that intentionally.
Zion LDS or something?
I mean, Zion is a place in Utah. They consider that area Zion. Like, this must be the place.
Okay.
Like, it's what famously what Brigham Young said when he was there. But he was also dying of dysentery, and he couldn't go any further, which was to the better canyon over the hills over there, which is much better, like, for agriculture, for just nature in general. It wasn't where the terminal lake was, where a lot of the local Utes were like, that's a bad place, because, like, that's where all the water goes and all the animals go die, because it's like a terminus lake, which means where all the water drains, and then the water doesn't go anywhere. That's why it's a salt lake as well.
Yeah.
But you know, it's all in the lore. You guys can
Didn't
look it
know
up
you
later.
were an expert on the lore.
When you live in Salt Lake for 10 years, you learn it, no matter if you want to or if you don't.
Do they know they followed the Donner Party path? Are they aware of that?
Yeah, and then the Donner Party. There's also the Donner Party, and then the people that came right after them that got the Willikers. We'll see. They got beaten up by the Mormon settlers, and who then also did blackface too.
Oh, good.
Whoa! And they called themselves the Paiutes and made it seem as if it was an Indian tribe that had killed the settlers, but really it was a Mormon band that was leading a couple of Indians that had converted to the faith and stuff like that. Which is it's deep lore. You guys can get into it.
There was also a Mormon war with, I think, the Comanche over slavery, and the Mormons were on the anti-slavery side.
In what year?
Like 1850 something.
Before
It was between the Civil War and the act that made it so that new states would not be slave states.
Well, Mormonism does have like a bad reputation when it comes to racism.
Yeah,
race relations is not their strong
race
suit.
relations.
It was probably more about conquering territory from the Comanche than it was preventing slavery, but.
Quite Blackpilled said, did you catch the Steelers-Cowboys game, Kellen? 5 minutes on the NFL a week from you would be lit. Will Mahomes get more rings than the something, you think?
The GOAT.
The
GOAT. Oh.
Yeah. The Steelers game was a heartbreak. We don't like to do offense until the second half. That seems to be the trend
Feel
this
that, brother.
year. But Mahomes. Okay, so it's a loaded question you're asking here, because I think Mahomes will get more rings. I don't think that'll dethrone Tom Brady as the GOAT. The overall play in the NFL is at a low point. And if you look at how good we had it with Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, we're going to be lucky if we ever see such a competitive league like that again. Mahomes could compete with those guys, but all those guys would blow out everyone else in the league right now. So I think he'll get more rings. I don't think he'll dethrone Tom Brady as the GOAT.
It was just such a different league. It was so much. Also, when people compare Mahomes' passing stats to Brady was throwing in a much heavier, run-heavier league.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous to compare the two of them. Also, like I know there's the Tom Brady cheated at a whole bunch of things thing, but like. Patrick Mahomes too. Patrick Mahomes does not have as many Super Bowls as he has if the refs don't call a meaningless holding penalty on one play at the end of the game against the Eagles.
Tom Brady used witchcraft, so.
Deflating
balls and then also spied on practice from other teams. But like, how much does that really help you?
Yeah. Also, if Jeremiah Trotter doesn't get too drunk the night before the 2004 Super Bowl, the Eagles probably win that game.
Nice.
Tyler Dalrymple said, good to see Aidan here. Can't wait for Weird Bible.
Tomorrow at 7. Demonology. It's Halloween.
Aidan Thornberry said, as long as I know ahead of time and can get the week's video edited, I'm all in to come down. Thanks for the invite, y'all. I'm excited. Thank you. So how many is that? For the last,
it's gotta be like 14 or 15.
The last like 3 days.
It's enough that Brett better be proud.
Yeah.
That's how many.
We are making Brett proud right now. He's a proud dad. Hey Shay said, you guys really don't know much about the LDS church and it shows.
Oh.
Serge, tell me about the shunning because I'm the only LDS member in my family and shunning comes from everyone.
Sounds like you're the one that got
You're the only
shunned.
LDS member in your family, then how would you be able to be like experience shunning or anything? Like I have had friends that when they decided that they were done with the church, they wanted to leave the church. I think one of them was 17, one of them was like 19. This is when I was young too. It was about 10 years ago. I was like early 20s. He was a coworker, a friend of mine. His parents removed him from his bank account, so they debanked him. They changed the locks on their doors. They told the police to notify of suspicious activity of a person
Wow.
they did everything you can imagine to them to completely alienate this person from their community, which is in Provo, Utah, in Utah County.
The Mormons invented cancel culture.
I mean, kind of. I mean, so again, this is your perspective from my perspective, and I did mention that this is an anecdotal. I've known firsthand. And you can say what you want about anecdotal evidence, but like at the end of the day, what is anecdotal evidence but evidence? But that wasn't the only time that has happened. I had another friend that was a little bit older. He luckily had an apartment, but he got completely alienated from his entire family, which is not a nice thing to experience.
No.
Which is why back in the day that used to be a death sentence to say you were getting exiled. But now we just read that and think, oh, that's fine. You were like, it's like, no, that's not a good thing. It's not a nice thing, and that's just the modern day equivalent of it. And you just rip out someone's entire under like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just knock that whole need of family and compassion out, and then see how they survive. It doesn't really turn out very well. That's why you got a lot of crazy people in
And
Utah.
they're like, oh, they
just as
went
much as
crazy
religious
because
people.
they left the Mormon church. And it's like, no,
Right,
they went crazy probably because they got shunned by everyone they love.
Exactly. But again, no smoke, no hate. That's just what my experience.
It's all love. It's love speech.
Yeah, true.
Quite Blackfield said, you forgot pre-Jets Rogers. Go
That's
Pack
true.
Go.
Yeah, I didn't list him, but I did not forget about Aaron Rodgers on the Packers. Young Kellen was very heartbroken by that one Super Bowl. So, yeah, respect to Rodgers. He's a great player, but I think this might be his last season. He's not doing too hot this year.
Yeah.
He's an old man.
H. Wilder said, I would have given them rosaries if they stayed. Well, too late.
Nice.
John Black said, LDS missionaries should start with the cool underwear. That's their lead-in.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to wear cool underwear? Join
check
our
out these
club.
garments, buddy. Yeah. Like, yeah, that'd be. I would actually, if I could just buy garments, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm down.
Is there
do
like
look
a
kinda
merch
cozy.
store? Is there like an LDS
I
merch?
wish.
Yeah, it's called onlymormons.com.
Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah, but you have to. I think you have to get them. They make it so it's really in group to be able to get them, and then
Yeah,
they have the whole
yeah.
thing with like the like the
You
Eucharist.
have to be Mitt Romney status.
Yeah, and it has to be. They have to be like actually blessed. Like the Eucharist can just be wafers, and then until it's actually blessed by the priest, then it would be considered the Eucharist, and not just like wafers.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So the underwear
They do.
is the
They do
equivalent?
communion.
No. I'm just saying it's like that, where they say, oh, if
Yeah.
you're wearing the underwear, it's not the same. You can just wear those. But if you have actual, what they call garments, if you have actual garments that have been blessed by, then they're like legit, and you get them from I believe your bishop when you go do your marriage ceremony, and I don't know if they change it, but they have these like they're really particular. They have like little things on them. I forget what they are.
Well, I just learned today that
like 5
apparently
things. Yeah.
Sikhs have to carry a dagger.
Yeah, there's 5 elements. They carry a dagger. They have to wear their hair up. They can't cut their hair. They have to wear the turban as well.
And you're like not allowed to
shield
ban
thing.
them from doing so in
Yeah.
like schools or airports or whatever
Right.
because of religious liberty, which is, I don't know,
Same with
kind of
the
scary.
Not gonna lie though,
It's kind of cool.
Based?
It's kind of
It's
cool.
badass. Every Sikh I've ever met has been
weapons are
like,
part of my religion.
Yeah,
It's kind of cool, yeah.
It's sweet. It's sweet. I like those guys.
Nate said, okay, your
And
take
girls.
on Mahomes has got to be your absolute worst take, Aidan. Also, someone
Yeah.
else did your Fall Out Boy reference, so you're gonna have to come back.
Oh no, how horrible.
Ganana, he said you're gonna
Yeah.
have to come back.
I think Mahomes is a great quarterback. I think he's extremely talented. I also think that his legacy is going to be tainted by the very obvious bias of the referees.
Sounds like a bias from someone who's not a fan.
Okay, I'm not going to read the last super chat, and we're going to wrap up the show. So thanks for the money anyway, guy. Aidan, please let everyone know where they can find you and your channel.
Sure thing. Yeah, you can find me over on the Lore Lodge as well as the Weird Bible. The Weird Bible has a live show tomorrow night on Demonology with Wendigoon present, so that's going to be a fun one. And then, you can also find me on Instagram at the Aidan Mattis and on Twitter at Lore Lodge. You can. I know Mary says send me validation, but it seems like you guys would prefer to send me hate. But feel free; it helps the algorithm.
Yes, definitely. Kellen, where can they find you?
Follow me at KellenPDL and explore the Timcast universe, the Timcast cinematic universe. There's a lot of good stuff that we do over here.
The TCU. The TCCU.
Something.
Serge, do you want to be found?
Not really.
If the answer is no, that is totally fine.
You guys can find me on Twix. I think it's Serge, still at Serge.com. And then if you want to support my music and stuff, go to Groove Inc. World at Bandcamp.com.
We have another super chat from a couple new super chats. Nate said ref bias is literally the same thing they said about Brady.
And they were right. Like,
Greg Duvier
about
said
it.
just subscribe to Weird Bible.
Nice.
A new
thank you.
subscriber. Okay, you guys can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived. Go follow the show on social media. Our Instagram is Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Our X is Pop Culture_show. And if you'd like to listen to the show rather than watch, go follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any of the listening platforms. Give us a rate and review as well. That is very important. We have been told that is very important for visibility.
Very, very important.
Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Please turn on notifications so that you can tune in as soon as we go live tomorrow. We will be back with another brand new episode. We'll see you guys then.
Bye.
bye.
Jesus.